Big Mark did it. Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show. And how are you? We're coming to you live from the West Side Comedy Theater here on the west side of Los Angeles. And as our guest likes to point out, we might as well be in Phoenix. Unless you live on this side, and then it's fucking fantastic to just stroll on down the street. We're very excited for today's show. I don't want to waste too much time, but Sammy, how are you, buddy?
I'm so wonderful.
You got a special guest coming up.
I do.
We're going to drop a pre-tape on Easter.
And then on the 23rd, I'll be live with Ethan Embry.
Ethan Embry.
Yeah.
AKA Nick Papagiorgio.
Nick Papagiorgio from the Vacation Vegas.
Vegas Vacation.
My
second favorite, but now my third
TV
favorite in the Vacation franchise.
He and I were in a motion picture together.
Was it a motion picture? I thought it was a TV show.
She's All That? No, That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You are in that. But you were also on a television program called Work With Me.
That's true. We did hire Ethan. Poor Ethan.
I got to play one of my favorite, I don't know if it's so much a prank on Kevin, but something I like to do to him, where he was out on a walk and That Thing You Do was on, and I found I found the spot right before his character comes on, and I pause it, let the TV go to like the DirecTV like screensaver, and then as soon as he comes back in the room, I put it on, and he's like, oh, it's me.
I'm not allowed to watch anything I'm in the house.
Right.
In my brain, because if I'm ever caught watching anything I'm in, it would be.
I also like to do this on poker nights.
Getting caught masturbating. Yeah. You also like what?
Do this on poker night.
On poker night, yeah. The fellas come over. She'll throw something up on the screen, suggesting that I was home watching myself. What's that? Watch us on the YouTube. Write to us at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. What was that? kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Previous shows you can check out on the YouTube. Christopher Guest, Lauren Graham, Billy Bob Thornton, Rob Riggle, J.K. Simmons. Upcoming, Dave Keckner. If you watch the show on Amazon, Bosch, the great Titus Williver, will be next Sunday. Dave Foley, Craig Ferguson, Dave Coulier, Rob Corddry, and in October, Ricky Gervais. What does he need? What would you like? Give me a chair. Any chair. Any chair. Grab a chair, any chair. Don't. All right. It is. A lot of those names I was mentioning, you can watch on YouTube, are Welcome Back to the Table guests, as is today's guest, a welcome back. We did a show together in New York at that horrible little studio thing we had in New York for a little while, where the sound was even worse than it is now and everything was bad. I am so thrilled to welcome him back. Kevin Smith, how are you?
Oh my God. It's been a minute. Last time we did this, we were making Cop Out.
Yes.
And that feels like a lifetime ago. But that was what, 2008?
You tell me.
I think so. I think it came out in 2009.
2009.
Well, it came out in 2009, but I think we were shooting it.
August of 08.
There you go. So I was right. 2008.
Holy crap.
So we're 9 years from that interview.
That's ridiculous.
Do you know what dividends that interview has paid, though? I did that interview 9 years ago. Do you know how many times I've heard about it since then?
3.
Fucking never. So let's make this one pop, Kev. Jesus. I'm out there in the world. I'm always telling people, like, did you ever see Kevin Pollak interview Dana Carvey? It was one of the greatest interviews I've ever seen in my fucking life.
And they go, what are you talking about?
Yeah. No, they know that one, but they were like, oh, you were on that show? I was like, yeah. So I'm going to make an impact on this show.
We would like to.
I'm going to be confessional. Pull out my big, fat, tiny confessional dick and just tell people things that I've never talked about before.
Speaking about your big, fat confessional dick, we do a thing on the show since you were here called Famous Questions. These are questions that are written for you by famous people that you either know or have worked with.
Okay.
This one in particular, if I can find the motherfucker, here it is, from Adam Brody. Describe
Great Adam Brody.
The great Adam Brody, speaking of Cop Out.
Who's now a dad.
Who's now a dad.
Yeah.
How about that?
Married with children and stuff.
You can't beat that.
Talented motherfucker.
We met on the motion picture Cop Out.
Cop Out set. Which was, to be fair, entitled A Couple of Dicks when we all took the job. If you were offered a movie called Cop Out, do you think you would have done it?
Nope. Couple of dicks, I'm in.
We're not bitching. This sounds like first world problems. Move on to the question.
Adam Brody's question to you, sir. Describe Batman's dick.
Oh, I've done this for somebody. You asked me to ask somebody.
Describe Batman's. That's right.
Yeah.
You wrote
I remember doing this
for. We'll try to remember.
Yeah.
Describe Batman's dick in writerly detail.
Batman is hung for justice. The intricate wrinkles of his testicles mirror exactly a map of Gotham City. So at any given moment, he can't be lost because he's got tech. But even if stripped of his fucking tech, that's what makes him so metal.
And stripped.
He could literally find his way around Gotham just by doing the bullfrog, pulling up the sack and looking down.
The bullfrog.
People don't talk about that aspect of the Cape Crusader, but that's impressive too. You know, when you think about it. It's like all the shit with the cars and the money, that's easy, but
pull up the bullfrog.
Come on. I can't even see my dick. I couldn't be Batman because I'd have to pull up my gut and my balls, and there's 3 guts under that. So yeah, I envy the Batman.
You you wrote a Superman.
I did a long time ago.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, we doing 90s interviews? Next you're gonna ask me about Clerks and shit like that?
It wasn't 90s.
It's been a fucking minute since, 96 is that. Jesus Christ, Kevin.
That's only 20 years.
Let's talk about something that happened recently.
My first question.
Fire away.
In February, you tweeted that you had written the script for a film called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
You're in it.
Is it still a go?
Yeah, we start in August. Now, I say that I don't have my money for sure, but I'm relatively sure it'll happen.
Right.
I made a movie about a guy who turns another guy into a walrus. Happen. You know what I'm saying? If I could do that, going like, hey, we want to sequelize Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, a movie that I made when I was sane and I made movies that people actually liked, that's an easy bet. People are like, oh, fucking here. He's off the walrus. It's good for him.
They will literally make it rain.
I don't know if they'll make it rain, but they'll give us enough to tell the story. And I'm trying to keep that story low, man. I'm trying to keep the budget low. When we made Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I think we did like 20 million. We made it for 20 million back
in a studio thing.
2001. Miramax, if you consider them that. They were at that point.
They certainly consider themselves that.
They did. So now, you know, in the age of digital media and stuff, you can accomplish it for a lot less. And let's be honest, nobody should spend that much fucking money on this concept. The concept of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is Jay and Silent Bob find out that the Blunt Man and Chronic movie that starred Jason Biggs and James Vanderbeek is being rebooted in Hollywood, and so they go back to stop it. So it's the same fucking movie over again. All the movie does is make reboot jokes while being a reboot in and of itself.
That is
it's
fucking,
a little meta.
It's totally meta.
It's gonna irritate everyone that fucking hates me already. They're gonna be like, he don't even fucking try anymore. He's telling a meta joke of a meta joke. But I'm like,
I just fuck you to all the
it's not so much a brilliant fuck you, but thank you, Jim. To me, it's like, you know, at a certain point in my career, I realized if I was just going to be a filmmaker, then I would be judged thusly. You know what I'm saying? Like only by that one agenda. That would be like if the world had to judge me by the size of my dick, nobody would talk about me except to be like, remember how small it was? You know, and shit like that. Why am I trying to like fucking be judged by one of the weakest muscles in my body? I'm not a strong director. I make fun stuff and shit, but like I'm a storyteller.
Right.
And where I'm best is like, you know, I don't need a camera and a fucking bunch of actors. Set me on a stage or sit me down and give me a microphone and I'll tell you some fucking stories and shit. So for me, I realized early on, I was like, well, if I just keep being a director, then they'll get me. And I don't mean they in the paranoid fucking sense of whoever they are, but just the idea of like you're only judged as that one thing.
Sure.
So early on, I started Renaissance manning it, where I was like, anything that this shit opened a door to, and when I say this shit, I mean the film career, anything that opened a door to, I went down the rabbit hole long before that was a popular expression. So things that I was a fan of. I saw George Carlin my whole life, stand on stage, fucking talking, be funny and smart. When I was pushed on a stage,
and be relevant.
And well, I can't be that, but you know, I saw him be those other things. When they pushed me on a stage after the movie, and you're supposed to Q&A, and I've been to movie Q&As before, and they're very, you know, most people treat the job seriously, and so they artistically speak about it and shit. It's very dry. So, you know, I always promise myself, if I'm the guy on stage, I'm gonna fucking, you know, entertain them. Fuck, like I can't tell them about filmmaking. Like they can hear that from Steven Soderbergh. I can tell them about how we got the cat to shit on cue, you know, and tell a story and shit. Try to make it entertaining.
Write that down because I do want to hear about how the cat shit on cue.
It's important. We overfed the cat for a day, and then and every time it went near a litter box, we were like, no, and we moved the litter box.
Don't write that down. We just
If you look at Clerks, there is no animal was harmed in this picture because we kept, you know, we tortured a cat. Not tortured it like you're reading those old books. I remember being a kid in vocabulary class. What was that fucking book? There's a book where there's a story about a kid who fucking would tie a string around a kitten's neck and push it down a sewer.
Jesus.
It was like an Upton Sinclair piece. Maybe I'm wrong. It came from vocabulary, but it was enough to put me off Upton Sinclair forever. I'm like, buddy, always look on the bright side of life, you know. So in any event, I learned early on, create a bunch of different things to do for yourself, because that way, I don't know, if one thing doesn't work out, you pivot, you're over there. Last year, 2016, we started off the year by taking this movie Yoga Hosers to Sundance. What a lovely experience. My kid was in the movie, blah, blah, blah. But when it got there, people were just like, fuck your movie, and they fisted it and shit. And to be honest, they didn't even spit. They just fisted it and shit. So, you know, it was tough. Everyone's like, this is his worst movie. He's lost his fucking mind. Whatever, I get it. Like, they said the same shit about Mallrats 20 years later. Mallrats is a celebrated film. So I've been in this business long enough to know if they don't like it right now, just give it a minute. They'll catch up in 5 to 10 years and shit. I ain't in a rush. So while that was going on, and a bunch of people in the press were like, he's fucking over, he's done, which they've been saying since the first day I got here.
Yep.
I had an episode of Flash air. An episode of Flash I directed for the CW. And all of a sudden, not the same people, but a whole bunch of different people online are like, this shit's brilliant. Oh my God, what a great job you did. And mind you, I didn't put in nearly as much as I put into my own flick as I did The Flash. Those kids are wonderful actors. I'm not gonna go in and tell fucking Grant Gustin, like, let me tell you how to be like the fucking Flash, bitch. Like, he's been doing it for seasons. I'm not gonna go and change the look of the show. So you're just there to be moral support and fucking like, I'm enthusiastic because I love the source material. But suddenly that TV show, that 1 hour of television counterbalanced the shit I took for Yoga Hosers.
In 9 seconds.
Isn't that fucking nuts?
It's beautiful.
So I like the idea of spinning a bunch of plates, not just because it's strategic. It did become that, I'll be honest. Like, one day I realized, oh shit, if I do a bunch of things, they can never be like filmmaker Kevin Smith. I'd be like, well, you know, that's Sundays. But on Tuesday, I'm podcaster Kevin Smith.
Right.
But, you know, I just like doing shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I got into film in the first place. I saw Richard Linklater made Slacker. I said, that looks fucking fun. So when film opened up a bunch of opportunities, or maybe it just, I don't even know if it opened up opportunities. I just made the opportunities. Like, I wanted to go to DC Comics and fucking like talk to them. Like, I got a job to go back to Superman, writing Superman at one point. The first thing I asked was, can I go to the DC Comics offices and talk to those people? Because I was pushing for those cats to get the job. I was sitting in the office, they're like, are you interested in this Superman thing? I said, I'd love to, but you realize you guys own DC Comics. There's a guy named Mike Carlin who runs the whole Superman division. And he got like 96 dudes been writing Superman since I was in short pants. Yeah. They know how to do this. And was told in 1996, yeah, but those are comic book writers.
Oh my God.
So, you know, one of the first things I did when I got the job was like, and that's weird, they're comic book writers. The only reason I got the job writing Superman was because in Mallrats, we had talked about a kryptonite condom, and they're like, this guy seems to know a lot about Superman.
He wrote one sentence. I know these guys are writing books.
He's made a dick joke about Superman, give him the job. So it got me into the DC Comics offices. And
by the way, if I can stop just for a moment,
ahead.
That little moment in time.
Yes.
They said, seeing you make that reference, this guy right here makes us more relevant. Say what you will. That's what happened in that moment in the front office of those decision-making numbnuts.
You know what? Here, I'll do you one better. It's not even that. There was a lovely gentleman named Basil Iwanek who went on to be a producer. He's worked with Affleck. I think he produced Argo. I think he's one of the names on Argo. I met him when he was a junior executive at Warner Brothers. I went for a general meeting because he liked
something.
He saw a script for Chasing Amy. The movie hadn't come out, hadn't gone to Sundance, but my new agent, Phil Raskin, had just started this agency. A bunch of dudes like left ICM in the night and took a Rolodex and started the Endeavor agency, which is now William Morris Endeavor. So my guy who'd been a desk guy on some fucking big agent's desk at ICM, he made the run, the midnight run with him, so boom, he goes from assistant to an agent.
Player.
And he calls me up, cold calls me, he's like, you know, I think you're fucking brilliant. Like, you happy with your representation? And at that point, I kind of wasn't. And I was like, wow, no. I said, we're in New Jersey. We're making this movie, Chasing Amy. If you want to come visit us, feel free. And they brought out, like, every partner at Endeavor and came to where we were making this $250,000 movie. So I gave him a copy of the script. I was like, this is what we're doing, because he was interested in shit. And he sent that script out as a writing sample. Never told me he was going to do it. Sent it out to a bunch of places. Barry Sonnenfeld. I was trying to, Levinson Sonnenfeld. Sonnenfeld.
Former guest.
Tried to, his company, maybe not him personally, tried to buy it. They were like, oh, we'll take this, we'll make it. And he was like, no. Kevin Smith is making it. He's the guy that made Clerks, but he also made Mallrats, which had died hard. So he sent out Chasing Amy as a writing sample to be like, look, he's not an idiot. Like Mallrats was a fucking sophomore jinx, whatever the fuck. Clearly, he knows how to write. Because of that move, I re-met like everybody in the business and shit before Amy got seen in Sundance months later. So one of the meetings I had was with a young junior executive at Warner Brothers named Basil Iwanek. And I went in to speak about, he wanted to speak about a feature script based on an old episode of The Outer Limits called The Architects of Fear, which if you know your comic books, Alan Moore borrowed that for The Watchmen. The idea of a bunch of scientists are going to create a monster out of a human being and bring it to Earth and be like, I'm from space, and that will bond every nation together to fight this threat from another world. So that started as an episode of Outer Limits called Architects of Fear. And they were like, read this script, see what you could do for it. So my agent was pitching me as a rewrite guy. So I read the script and it was fucking brilliant. Like you would make that movie today. I'm not saying it was The Arrival, but it was on the level of The Arrival. Smart science fiction.
Wow.
This is 1996. So I came in, they were like, what would you do different? I said, I wouldn't do anything. This is brilliant. This is like some of the greatest shit I've ever read in my life. This is incredible. I would advocate that you make this movie, but it's essentially an $80 million art film. But take the risk. This is fucking great. They never made that movie. But he's like, well, what, we got other scripts. You want to talk about other projects? I said, okay, sure. And he said, how about Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian? And I was like, well, I think we've said all we need to say. In the first Beetlejuice, I don't need...
Let me see if I can get my car.
I don't think he needs to go tropical for us to go deeper into that character. And I was interested in Sweeney Todd. He had a copy of Sweeney Todd behind him, but he goes, we're saving that for Tim Burton. And eventually Tim Burton did do it. I don't know if he did it at Warner Bros., but he did it someplace. But he was like, I said, what else are you working on? He goes, what else we got? He's like, well, we're trying to redo Superman. I was like, Superman? I was like, oh my Lord, I love comics. He's like, yeah, that's clear from Chasing Amy. He's going, but Superman is not a gig that you could probably get and stuff. That's way, way down the road. Like, this is our first meeting, so. But because of that dude, I wound up eventually getting that gig, and you're absolutely right. It was predicated on a joke we made in a movie that had flopped at the box office. The point of this story, folks, kids at home, is that there is no such thing as fucking failure.
Nope.
I've been told so many times in my life, in print, for my mother to see, to sit me down and be like, Tiger, you have failed again because a newspaper said so. There's no such thing as failure. I was told Mallrats was a failure, and yet Mallrats was the doorway to me getting this fucking weird Superman gig, which was also a failure. It never wound up happening, but I've been telling that story for 21 years now.
Right.
And it invented the Evening with Kevin Smith DVDs that we did. Like, I became this weird raconteur because I didn't want to get on stage and tell dry stories about, like, this is how we made the movie, because I'm not an auteur and shit, I'm a storyteller. I like to get up and tell jokes and shit. Because of that, suddenly I had a lot of stories to tell, and you know, what comics would call a solid 20 or whatever.
Tight 20.
Tight 20. I had a tight
2 hours.
16. Yeah, like I could do 16 hours
Yeah.
of fucking material and stuff. And I backdoored into comedy. I always loved comedy, but I revered comics and stuff. I'm not just saying this because I'm here. I've known Kevin's work long before I knew Kevin.
You participated in the documentary about this very topic.
Love comedy.
Misery Loves Comedy.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. And I never felt like you try to be funny, it doesn't make you a comic. Look, I try to make fucking SpaghettiOs, don't make me a chef or Chef Boyardee. So I never thought just being funny made you a comic. Like, to me, a comic is a very strict definition. Get on stage, stand there, generate your material and shit without any help, and then, live or die based on the audience
It's a
response.
way to do it.
I figured that out later on in life. You figure that shit out, man. If something looks interesting to you,
Right.
and you want to try it, but you're like, I can't do it that way, then fucking make your own way.
Right.
There's no rule book. Nobody's
No.
going to be like, you're fucking doing it wrong.
In fact, if you make it your own way and you do that well, they'll say you reinvented the wheel.
they'll say you blazed a trail.
That's right.
Didn't just follow a path. They'll say all sorts
And
of
in terms of failures, no career or life just does this. It's never happened, and it never will.
Wow, our current president seems to be on a...
Oh, please. That wonderful human
I don't want to
being
go political. I'm
has
just saying,
failed more times than
in a
you can
bipartisan
count.
way, he seems to be winning, as we used to say back in the Charlie Sheen days.
Yeah. And like Charlie, the fall is coming.
Everybody, he's absolutely right. Everybody fucking
No,
gets kicked in the balls. But don't fucking like get kicked in the balls and be like, I fucking ruined it, I failed. So there's this thing as failure. Any failure can be turned into opportunity and shit. I'm sure there's some Asian adage, Chinese adage for there.
I think Yoda spoke on the very matter.
Absolutely.
There's no try, only do.
Here, I went to a fucking screening last night of this wonderful movie called Colossal, directed by this director Nacho, comes from Spain, Madrid. And it's being distributed by Neon Pictures, is run by this guy, Tim League. I'm just doing all this name dropping just to show you how it wound up in my sphere. Tim League is this brilliant genius that invented the Alamo Draft House.
Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, let's watch a movie while we fucking eat and drink. Like, what a brilliant idea. And slowly the Alamo Draft House has been expanding beyond just its Texas base. And hopefully one day there'll be one fucking everywhere. It's such a great idea. Bruin views, whatever the fuck you want to call them. The idea of like watching a movie with food, like dinner theater. It's just fun.
Yeah, no, it's been knocked off all over.
A bunch of places. Yeah. Tim did something years ago called the Rolling Road Show, where he would pick cool movies and show them where those movies were made. So they showed Close Encounters at Devil's Canyon, like where that fucking, whatever that thing is called, in the movie Devil's Tower shit. Jaws in fucking Martha's Vineyard and shit like that.
Right.
We tried to do Clerks at
a convenience store.
The convenience store, and the town shut us down because like there's a lot of dirty words in the movie, and so we had to move to Red Bank, a few towns away, and do it there instead.
Tim you idiots!
I know. Tim's
the publicity for that neck of the woods.
We were literally screening it on the roof of Quick Stop.
Yeah, but it would have been happier to bring all that money into Red Bank anyway.
That's where my office is, where our comic book store is. So at the end of the day, it worked out kind of well. But doing it on the roof of Quick Stop, one day before I die, we're doing something on the roof of Quick Stop because that building changed my fucking life.
No
you
shit.
know what I'm saying?
Shit.
So anyway, fuck, where was I? It was real good.
Alamo Draft House, Tim League.
Thank you. So Tim League, also Mondo, the posters that we all love and fucking different cover. He's behind that. This guy's fucking, you know, he's one of these people is like, well, I can't do that job, the sexy job. But like, I love movies so much that I'm going to do everything else. It's going to influence. So, you know, I went for the obvious. Ooh, I want to be a director. I guess the obvious is probably acting and shit. But I went for one of the big jobs. Yeah, there you go. But he went for the like, well, if I can't get in, if I don't have talent or whatever the fuck, so-called talent, I'll find another way in. So he's been doing this for years. He's so fucking cool. And he hit me up on email and he was like, he goes, I heard you loved Colossal. And I wrote back, I was like, I haven't seen it. I like the idea of it. I heard about it at Sundance, and he wanted me to do a Q&A with Nacho, the director, at the Landmark, which is at the West Side Pet. So I said, yeah, I could try to make time and shit. Send me a link so I could watch it. So I waked and baked on like Wednesday morning, which is the perfect way to watch this movie, because it's a mind expander. And went to work. It's this movie with Anne Hathaway in it and shit. If you've not seen the trailer, look online. It is fucking truly original. Jason Sudeikis is in it. Both of those actors have always done stellar work, but neither of them really fall onto my radar until this movie, and I'm like, give these kids everything. They're fucking talented, especially because they backed the horse in this movie, and the horse is this guy Nacho's idea. So I fall in love with it. You know, it's one of these things where you're like, oh, I was crying at the end of the movie. And that's, you know, not saying much. Everything makes me cry. I'm a stoner, middle-aged stoner and stuff. But this movie really affected me where I was like, fuck, indie film is alive and well. Like, it's still possible. Like, I made a monster movie, a goofy-ass monster movie that was just like, let me just fucking see if I could do it. It was more like an artistic kind of like, let me just see if it's possible. This guy made a monster movie that makes sense, and it's metaphorical, and it's kind of beautiful, and there's depth to it. It's just so fucking smart. So, you know, I told Tim, I was like, I'll totally Q&A. I had a show at 10 o'clock, Babylon, at the Improv, and their Q&A was 9 o'clock at the West Side Pad, but I was like, I could probably get in 45, 50 minutes, and was able to do it because you respect that kind of shit. Like, you don't make money. Nobody pays you to do this kind of shit. You run around town because you're like, I like that.
Right.
I like that. You like advocating for shit. I was a fan long before I was a maker of things.
Sure.
So I like to keep the fan heart burning. And when you see something that lights your fucking, you know, your world on fire, you want to fucking be near it, the heat of it. You want to expose it to other people and shit. So I went and did the Q&A. It was a long way of getting to this point. I went and did the Q&A at Colossal with this dude Nacho, man. And this dude was raised in Madrid, like, you know, fucking world away over in Europe and Spain and stuff.
He's an actor, too.
I think he's done a little bit.
Did a movie with Zoe Bell, you know, the great stunt woman for Quentin.
Yeah.
I did a little thing she asked me to do, and he's one of the leads in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Nacho?
Yeah. I know it sounds crazy, but yeah.
I'm not. I buy it.
Yeah.
You didn't mention anything about that last night. Not saying you're fucking lying. I'm just saying. I'm gonna go down the rabbit hole. What don't I know about this fucking Nacho dude? I put all my eggs in Nacho's basket, man. I'm fucked. I didn't look deep enough into him. Anyway, he's up on stage, dude, and he comes from a world away from me. Literally mirrors the same fucking shit that I say on stage when I push people into creativity. Like, I always got to rap about there's no fucking talent. Don't be put off by the notion of fucking like talent. This takes talent and you don't have talent. It's bullshit. You know what talent is? Like, look at this fucking room. You see how there's no beams in the middle and yet the ceiling doesn't fall on us? Whoever built this room is fucking talented.
Right.
But it don't take talent to stand on stage and be like, let me tell you about some shit that happened. Let me tell you how we didn't let the cat shit all day and then it shit when we were rolling cameras and stuff like that. That don't take talent. Don't take talent to stand on a movie set, put on a fucking backwards baseball cap and say nothing. That is the absence of fucking talent and stuff. So anytime people are like, oh, he's talented, I'm like, nah, I'm just real self-expressive. And you can be too. Like, don't let somebody fucking draw a chasm between you and the things you want to do by going like, talent. There's no such fucking thing.
Also, get the fuck out of your own way.
Yeah.
You found comfort in support or not, great reviews or not. I'm going to keep moving forward and not be in my own fucking way with insecurity.
Yeah.
At some point, it's just that.
I had to
Just
go through
fucking
that
do
though,
it.
but I had to go through it publicly as well. Like, you know, you got to remember, I grew as an artist publicly. I didn't have this wonderful time in film school where I could develop.
Are you hiding the matzah behind the chair?
This is I like doing
okay.
this, so
Okay.
I kind of put that there all the time.
How are you leaning to your right?
What do you mean?
Not as enjoyable?
If I could, I'd put another chair there so I could do this.
Kenny, I'm just thinking about the two shot here, Kev.
That'd be fantastic. Just get it in there. I'll take another one, yeah.
Please.
If it's offered. Because it feels like Kirk's chair. Thank you. You know what I'm saying?
It took us 301 episodes. We finally got this right.
Warp speed, Captain Pollock. You can do it. Do your.
I can't believe you said that.
You were one of the first.
Technically.
I am actually going to give you credit. Let's stop the show for a second and just focus on the other Kevin.
John Belushi was the first.
But he did it for a sketch.
Yes.
He wasn't like up on a stage
Nope.
fucking working it.
No.
But you are actually one of the first people I remember going, like doing an impression going, oh fuck, he's seen Star Trek too. Like, it's a real world shrinker.
Well, by the way, it was being 11 years old and seeing that actor walk onto the bridge and think, there's something wrong with that guy. Literally at 11, not being drawn into the story, but saying to my friends, are you seeing what I'm seeing? What is this? What is happening?
Well, it was just the way he
Just
acted.
a fascinating...
Isn't that what the actor wants, though? Like
Yes.
acting is a job of making choices, and you make choices that make people, hey, hey, that's fucked up. Hey,
Right.
why is he being that
But
way?
you don't want to make 11-year-olds say, what's the matter with this actor?
What's going on with that guy?
Yeah, who's he kidding? And then years later, I saw him in the episode of Twilight Zone with the Devil Head, which is
Nick of
called
Time.
Nick of Time, and I want, this is the greatest actor that's ever lived. Just Captain Kirk is born in that episode. There's a moment. Do you know the Twilight Zone well?
There's a man on the wing of this plane?
So that's one
this said
episode.
the other Shatner one where they're
He was in 2?
Yes, he was in 2. This one's way better. Please see it immediately. It takes place in a diner. There's a little fortune teller devil head on
Napkin
top of
holder.
it, napkin holder. And he keeps putting in a penny and pulling out, and him and his wife are on their way to a thing,
Right.
and he stops his life because now he can't get away from this machine. Honey, it keeps saying, no, and she's saying,
It's like a magic 8-ball. It gives you
Yeah.
like very vague answers.
and he's
Right.
his character's putting import behind everything that comes out. And at one point, she says to him, what are we going to stay here? The rest of she wants to get the fuck out of there.
Right.
We're going to stay here forever. And he looks up and he says, I don't know.
That's the moment
Captain
Kirk's
Kirk was
born.
in that moment.
Filed that away.
So yes, it is a matter of just keep moving forward, just keep pressing ahead.
Or as the fish in that very successful series of movies said, just keep swimming.
But honestly, right?
Yeah. No, it's like, well, we forget that life is long. When I was a kid, I had to grow up in front of people practicing my craft. I didn't get to fucking hone my craft and then present myself.
Right.
Shit, the beginning of my career is predicated on, you don't know dick, look at it, but the movie's watchable. And I thought I could cruise on that for the rest of my career. Sooner or later, they're like, hey, he don't know dick, and now it's sad, you know, because he's been doing it 2 decades. So for me, like, there was a moment where, and it was around Cop Out, like, where I grappled with the critics and in the press. Like a lot of weird things happen around Cop Out. That Southwest thing happened, the Too Fat to Fly thing, fucking just the fucking heartbreaking nature of like, oh, this is what it's like working with a major movie star that came along with Cop Out and stuff. But then like when the movie was done, like I remember I liked that script. Like it was on the, what do they call it, the Blacklist or whatever the fuck.
Yes.
One of the greatest unproduced screenplays of the year. And you know, people were tagging it, calling it like simple and shit. And I was like, man, this is. And I went after the critics, which is like, you know, it was intentional because I was like, I felt shackled to the notion of performance.
Yes.
You know, like I came into the business not looking to please anybody but myself. I just wanted to make Clerks please me. Miramax picks it up, which is amazing. But Harvey from day one is just like press, critics, press, critics. That's the difference between anybody hearing about your movie, nobody hearing about your movie. Because they came up in a world where they didn't spend to get a movie known. They would just get it a bunch of press. All the critics agree and stuff like that. So that was like kind of beat into me, like, and not in a negative way, but just like, we do this for the critics.
No, he showed you the success we've had doing it this way.
That was his formula, and it was brilliant. Other people figured it out later on and shit, but that was at that point, his secret formula. But you know, that created in me like a Pavlovian response of like, my movie's done, what do the critics say?
Right.
And that's not how I began that journey at all. So I've started feeling very shackled, I'm not blaming critics. It's my own fucking feelings. But I knew that I would always keep doing that. Like you have to break the cycle, right? Like I certainly wasn't a alcoholic or a drug addict, but you gotta do something dramatic and break a fucking cycle, otherwise you will fucking slip back into it. So it was a real like, I'm gonna burn down the village to save it moment and like pick a fight with critics, which if you're a filmmaker is one of the stupidest things in the world you could do. But I felt, this is my philosophy, and I still look back at it years later and I'm like, well, I think it's still sound. My philosophy was this: I'm gonna poison the well. That way, I don't ever have to think about reviews again, because who would ever fucking give me a review when I've talked about how pointless their job is?
The password is self-sabotage.
Bang. However, the good reviews I did get would be so fucking honest.
It's undeniably.
Because you would have to rise above your fucking like, fuck this asshole.
That's right.
And you know, do I advocate it for others? No, but like, it seemed to make sense at the time. And I will be honest with you, I found it beneficial. I am now in a fucking Neo place of my career. And not where I'm like, I could bend reality like fucking Neo, Master Neo in the Matrix, but you see the zeros and ones now. It's no longer like, oh, they said this. You know, it's just like you can acknowledge something for what it is. And I'm not saying, oh, haters gotta hate. Like, I don't believe in that. But you can see it, acknowledge it, and let it pass through you. It does not stop you. It does not change the fucking focus of your day. You just accept the fact that like, not everyone's gonna like what you do. Some people will, some people won't.
Right.
Best way around all this shit is don't read any of it. And I'm not saying you fuck them all, but it's like, if you read your good press, then you gotta read your bad press. If you believe your good press, then you gotta believe the bad press. And this is who you gotta believe. This is who got me here.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't make Clerks going, what did they say? I made Clerks going, that's exactly what I wanted to see. I couldn't wait to see this movie, and now I'm seeing it. And so, that journey I went on eventually got me to the place of Tusk, which I never would have made in a million years if I was still of the old mindset, of the Weinsteinian mindset of like, you gotta court the critics and shit. Tusk for me was like, I'd taken 3 years off in filmmaking, but I was like, the only way I can make this movie is because I exist now in a place where I'm like, I don't care what anybody says.
Total freedom.
I just want to see it. Like, that's why I do this. I no longer go, this is my career, this is my job. Like, you know, there's a certain point in my over my repertoire where I was like, this is what I do for a living and shit, and that's dangerous. I found different ways to make money, so I didn't have to prostitute my art, and that sounds fancy and shit.
No, but that's really an important part of the story.
Yeah, it is, because then you could do whatever the fuck you want, and then you don't have to be like, well, I'm gonna make this movie because I hope it's gonna lead to this, which I hope will lead to the one I want to make. Fuck them. Lower your expectations, whereas, you know, my wife modified her expectations and married me. I don't think she lowered them as much as modified. Modify your expectations.
That's what it's called, honey, modifying your expectations.
We all modify every day. Nobody has to lower. No one stoops to conquer.
I've learned that expectation is a resentment waiting to happen.
Bang.
Wow!
The therapy you guys are in, it's doing great.
Oh!
Expectation is resentment waiting to happen.
Waiting to happen.
Motherfuck.
So modify those resentments.
Yes.
Yeah, just make shit. Don't give a fuck what anybody says.
Yeah.
Make it. And here's the thing. Here's the people you got to give a fuck about at the end of the day. Somebody gives you money to make a movie, make sure they get paid back. Otherwise, you ain't going to get money to make another movie in the future.
Right.
Shy of those people and the people who are in the movie and did time with you and stuff like that, always respect and love the shit out of them because they help make you bring your crazy dream to life.
Yeah.
But the only person you have to serve is you, because the only person who's interested in seeing that fucking movie is you. It all begins with you, and then this weird journey begins where you get other people you hope to pile on to see this thing that you wanted to see, just to ameliorate the cost,
right.
To amortize the cost. But at the end of the day, this is a masturbatory act. This is about creating your fantasy, bringing your fantasy to life. And we could paint it up and shit and be like, think about what it takes to bend reality and make that happen. Can you go out to anybody, you think of any other walk of life, where you walk into a place and be like, I need $3 million for an unproven idea I've got. And people are like, oh, okay. And it's a valid fucking business, man. That's the movie business.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Think about it. If you can walk into a place and find money to make a dopey idea that you had on the shitter one day come to life, and you're walking a red carpet, you have bent the rules of reality at that point. But you can get lost in that. And I don't like to do that with filmmaking. Filmmaking, if I can anthropomorphize it, she gave me everything. Mom gave me life, filmmaking gave me everything else and showed me to the world and stuff. And at a certain point in my career, she's like the giving tree, and I was fucking like, let me hollow this shit out, make a boat. Let me fucking make this and stuff like that.
I'm going to have to give you all the credit, and I'm going to have to insist at some point you give yourself all the credit, because the truth of the matter is that, along with failure, get out of your own way, diversifying, spinning many plates, being true to your own school, all those hard lessons that you're now able to pass along is all you. And at some point, you have to acknowledge that.
No, it's not. It's luck and timing.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything that others haven't. Like, honestly, I've looked over my whole... There's some shit I got to say first just because nobody else was saying it.
I'm not going to argue the luck and timing. December is the 25th anniversary of A Few Good Men, a role that changed my life.
Yeah.
It does not happen, however, for me, if one of two things. One, prior to that, when Rob Reiner, the director, is developing it and starting to cast it, I'm not sitting across from him every day, 5 days a week, having lunch while we shoot a 6-week series that he and Christopher Guest created that no one saw because it was on CBS and should have been on HBO.
What was it? Because two guys' names.
Morton and Hayes, yeah.
That's how you wound. That's part one of how you wind up.
That's the only reason, Kevin, because I was sitting in front of him every fucking day, and one day at lunch he said, there was this big Broadway play, it's a huge hit called A Few Good Men, and I'm going to direct the movie next, and I got Tom Cruise. I think we're going to get Nicholson. But there's this part of Tom's co-counsel and buddy, Jesus, you're kind of great for this. I got an offer out to Jason Alexander, but if Seinfeld gets picked up for season 2, he's not going to be available. And now I'm driving myself crazy with what I'm going to do. And there's no way he thinks of me if I'm not sitting across from him. And I mean no way.
The beautiful part of that story is that's not followed up with, and if you just suck this dick.
Which, by the way,
I would have been all over. I'm like, did you say Nicholson?
I was taught very early on, if you have to suck one dick, make sure it's the right dick.
That's true.
So anyway,
or a juicy dick, as my mom would say.
Hey. Oh, by the way, a little toast to the great Don Rickles.
Yes.
Yes. Honestly
Absolutely.
and truly.
A true legend. And without that guy, we don't get to do what we do.
100%.
Yeah. And we're not saying like we are the inheritors, but people like him made comedy popular and kept it popular long enough for when people like us got around, we could give it a shot. Or people like you. You're more common.
No, but I've been going down the rabbit hole with Don since the passing, now 36 hours, a couple of days.
Right.
The truth of the matter is he never had a written act. He went on stage the way you do at your Q&As.
He talks.
And just spoke. So while you were telling stories, he had to go on in between the strippers, and all he had were the people that were gathered. And to him, they were all material.
Right.
And he just was in the moment and in the pocket. And look at this guy. And 50-something years later, he's a guy who was singular in his version of stand-up comedy,
right.
So good at it and owned it for 50 years that no one even tried it. No one. Right. There are a few other put-down acts that came along, but there's a chasm. There's no, wow, you really ran neck and neck. Nope. There's the guy that did. So in that case, he was 100% true to his own thing.
Yeah.
He was not a trailblazer.
And if you've seen that documentary that they did,
John Landis.
Mr. Warmth, yeah, the Landis doc.
Yeah.
Family man, wonderful guy.
100%.
Yeah, like a dude you'd want to hang out with. And through that movie, you did kind of get to hang out with him. We did an episode of Babylon last night, the podcast I do at the Improv with Ralph Garman every week, and we always like do Tinseltown stiffs. Whoever dies that week, we eulogize and suck their dick and stuff like that. Not certainly we don't do everyone people we don't like. Generally, we do artists that have inspired us, whose passing meant something. So we're talking about Rickles, and Ralph, had to pick a clip. And what do you pick? Like you talking about
going
60 years of a career. He picked the clip. It wasn't even Rickles. It was Frank Sinatra on the Tonight Show,
telling
Johnny
the story.
Carson Tonight Show. And he
with
tells,
the winged collars.
He goes, yes, and with his open, and he's looking like your grandpa more than Frank Sinatra at that point. Like that was my Frank Sinatra in the 70s.
Yes,
that's what he looked like. But then you'd see like video of him like being the thin crooner and shit. You're like, was that his son? In any event, I was a kid. So they show this clip. And it's Frank Sinatra telling a story about Don Rickles to Johnny Carson. And now it's like 5 times removed with me telling it, but it was really good. Legit funny that made me laugh like out loud.
This was one of the most legendary stories about Rickles.
Is where he goes.
He's with a girl.
He's with a girl and he goes over to Frank Sinatra and he's like, Frank, I'm with this girl, man. It would really help me out if you would come over and like say hi and just stroll by the table and okay.
You got it, kid.
And he comes over to Don Rickles' table. He goes, hey, Don, how you doing? And Rickles goes, Frank, I'm eating. Did I do it wrong or is that it?
No, you're in the pocket. He really did, worship the ground that Sinatra walked on and came over and said, I want to make it with this girl and I know I can close. I can close if you just stop by the table. Please, please, please. Please don't worry about it. You got it. Yeah. And the rest of it is, but then to see Sinatra tell it is extraordinary.
Yeah, because he could tell he deeply loved the guy.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, this guy.
So, Johnny, I stopped by his table, just to see him actually act out the moment.
That's how strong.
Hey, Don, how you doing? I think I'm helping the kid get laid. Frank, please, I'm eating.
That's how.
Anyways, honey, you were saying something about the soup.
Yeah. That's how strong a performer that guy is, that you don't even have to see Don Rickles perform. Other people could just tell you a Don Rickles story.
I've told this story before, and Jamie's going to go to sleep for a minute, but I want to share it with you.
Go.
We're on the set of Casino.
Okay.
And when De Niro walks on, every sphincter...
Oh my God, that's right!
Every sphincter tightens when De Niro walks on set because, there he is, shut up, no, you shut up. Right? Rickles, not impressed.
Did you have crossover with him?
Oh, yeah.
No, in scene?
Yes. There's the big wedding scene. But anyways, Rickles...
I've seen that movie like fucking...
I did
no
not.
lie, 180 times. That used to be a go to sleep movie for us in the house. Like it's such a warm blanket of a movie. So comforting,
and that
everything
score,
about it.
The music.
Oh, everything about that movie is fucking perfection. I remember when that movie came out, we were making Mallrats at the same time.
Wow.
And the big story, we were both at Universal, and the big story was like, Marty's soundtrack cost more than any movie that we're making this year. Like, because he had every song. And
and everyone would hold him up. Rickles tells me, we both had to go to the Bel Air Hotel in order to get the job after you're offered the job. You have to go to and have a sit down with De Niro and have a sit down with Scorsese. It's just a tradition, a ritual that they both have.
Okay.
And I won't tell my side of it. I meet Rickles in the lobby at the Bel Air Hotel where we're both going to go one at a time into the bungalow where De Niro is.
Okay.
And Rickles tells me, I own this guy. And I say, what are you talking about? And he says, when De Niro was a kid, I just found out when he was a kid, there were peer groups hanging out in the street corners. There was a doo-wop group where they stood around a circle singing songs, and there was a put-down group where they sit in a circle, your mother this, your mother that.
Yeah, the dozens, run the dozens.
Run the dozens. He says, De Niro, that demure son of a bitch, was in the put-down group. And to him and his guys, I apparently am God. So I know, I'm telling you, Kevin, I own this guy. Cut to, we're on the set. And De Niro, arguably the greatest actor of his generation, not so much now, but then is acting brilliantly.
Side shade. Just a second to whip a little side shade. Go on with your story.
The great De Niro is acting brilliantly in this movie. And Rickles is just, Rickles does this the whole movie.
Yeah, his hangdog. Billy Sherman.
Middle of the shot. Middle of the shot. Camera's rolling. Scorsese's watching. De Niro's brilliantly acting. In the middle of it, Rickles will just turn on him. Is that the way you're going to do it? Like that? No, you got the awards. I'm sure you know what you're doing. Go ahead. And De Niro was... He fucking loved it. Rickles was right. He owned him.
Wow.
And it was because everyone else freaked the fuck out. You can't attack De Niro. And De Niro was weeping like a 9-year-old. It was truly remarkable. I'd never say anything like it. Honestly.
That's so fucking weird. You've worked with De Niro.
Yes. Well.
What is that like?
What is it like?
Yeah.
I'll give you the honest answer, since that's all you want. We're at a table. It's the blueberry scene. How many blueberries you got in your muffin?
Brilliant scene.
So Scorsese's head would come over and bob at the table in between takes. What do you think? Is he more angry? Is he less angry? What do you want to do? Literally, what do you want to do? He knows exactly what he wants in every square inch of the graph that is the composition.
Yeah.
It's meticulous. Within it, actors 100% freedom to do whatever the fuck you want.
Really?
What do you think? More angry? Less angry? And then he runs off. 35 takes later, we're done with the shot. 35 takes. I, with no training, after 3 takes, bored to tears. That's the honest answer. I'm watching De Niro act, and after 3 takes, I'm inside. Yeah, you went ahead and changed it just a little there, didn't you? Huh, you're doing it a little bit different than the last one.
All right.
Well, at least you don't have to edit it.
And then I was thinking, she's 100% correct. How the fuck is anyone going to edit this? Because he's picking up his thing at a different time. There's no consciousness of matching.
That would drive me nuts because I'm more of an editor than a director. So I'd be like, hey, can you move that with your left?
Honestly,
that's
truly,
why I don't get to work with Nero.
But no, at some point,
That and
I'm not
any other.
exaggerating or trying to be cool when I say I was bored to fucking tears.
Right.
I was, what are you doing? We had the take an hour ago. We
Yeah.
had the shot an hour ago. I love that.
That's their process.
I love that you two guys want to play in the sandbox for 35 takes, but why don't you burn money right in front of everyone? Just set it on fire. Bob Richardson, the cinematographer, by the way, who I got to work with on A Few Good Men as well, and he's as brilliant as anyone's
A
ever
legend.
been.
Yes.
Another guy who would light for 3 hours, So you had pretty much these masters, and you would think being in the presence of them would be the greatest gift of all. And there I was, and I'm thinking, am I just a complete and utter asshole that I am?
No.
Do we not have this shot?
No. They're looking for something. That's the...
Which is fine for
that-
them.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie and say it was mesmerizing.
that would have killed me too, and here's why. I'm not the let's gild this lily to perfection. I am that's good enough.
Yeah.
Because I'm an indie filmmaker first and foremost, and you don't get to make the film in its entirety, in total, if you're spending time going, what do you think, more or less? Go ahead, do another one. You can't do 35 takes on a fucking indie film. We did 35 takes throughout all of Clerks. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
We shot the whole film in 35 setups.
That was our big claim to fame. But like that,
Yes.
I believe in good enough because that started my career. Like, hey man, that's good enough. Does it look exactly like I had in my head? Good enough. Let's move on. And because of that, I made a film that did get picked up, and so my mindset is maintain that. It's always been like, good enough is good enough. Like
Also,
and
perfectionism.
that's for people that want to chase the 10.
Yeah.
And that means an Oscar, not fucking. Oh. Some people.
No,
don't
just
understand.
marveling at how you went
That dude was
left to right.
old. He hadn't come in a week, so there was lots.
hadn't come in a week.
Some people go for that gold. Obviously, I don't when I talk about. But I don't. Like, I like Oscar-winning movies, and I like the idea that everyone gives each other prizes and stuff. That's so cool. But I ain't in it for that. I'm in it to be like, how many of these can I get done before I fucking die? And you don't get to do many of those if you're like, well, hold on. I want to get it just right. Like,
No such thing.
no. But there is. To Martin Scorsese, 35 takes was just right. And there's no wrong or right. Like, that's his process. That's his
the way
process.
he wants to do it, and that's the way.
But I just, like, I'm too impatient. I'm like, oh my God, let's go. We can shoot so many other things.
I also just didn't have the technique, any training as an actor, so to me, after 3 takes, that's when I start to feel like I'm acting.
Right.
The first 3, I'm actually in the moment. I can dial it in and I can be in it.
Really?
And then after that, I just hear myself acting.
I'm never considered myself an actor, and nobody else would. But in the acting I've done, and not just Silent Bob, but anything I've done, I've never, like, I am that guy. I was talking to my kid. My kid's 17, and she's taking this shit so seriously. Like, she's an actress, and
Yes, she is.
dedicated to it and shit. And so I heard she was talking to me and Jen about this girl in her class or whatever, talking about her acting process and stuff. And she goes, and then I told her that, like, I'm not there anymore. Like, I just push out everything that's Harley, and all that's left was John Proctor. They did The Crucible, an all-female version of The Crucible. So she's like, I push out everything that's Harley, and all that's left is John Proctor. And I didn't say anything. I was just like, right on. And then later on, when we were away from everybody, I was like, kiddo, come here. You fucking really mean what you say when you say you push out all the Harley and all that's left is John Proctor? Like, come on. Like,
This is me.
we're in the same line of work here. She's like, yeah, how do you do it? I was like, not like that.
I fake it, honey.
Yeah, I don't even do dialogue. Like, I couldn't fucking, oh my God. Like, so I was actually happy to hear that without my, hey, you gotta be good in life. My kid, my only begotten child, was like, I would like to be better than my father at this given thing. I'm gonna actually treat it seriously. So she believes in the craft. To me, it's all make pretend. And there are people that are fucking brilliant at it, and there are people that, can do it and shit like that.
Right.
And I've met some of the people that are brilliant at it. Like fucking Alan Rickman was brilliant at it. And he treated it fucking seriously. And I would never disrupt that system. Matt Damon is fucking brilliant at it. Johnny Depp is brilliant at it and stuff. Affleck can be brilliant at it as well. But like Affleck, I always gravitated more to because he had a sense of humor about it too. Like he too was like, come on. Like, is it really like, all this kind of like, no, I pushed myself out. I'm in a moment. I surrendered myself to the character. And I'm not putting that down. I love people that feel that way. But I've made it this long, almost 25 years, never being that guy. It was nice to know that the kid is like, well, I want to be better. Like, I do believe in this.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like being a priest. Well, I guess I wouldn't be a priest with a kid. But it's like being a minister, say, and then having a kid who's like, your ministry is fucking bogus. Like, I really believe in Jesus. And I'm like, oh shit, I was just in for the money and the pussy. But, as every minister says.
You mentioned Matt and Ben, and I got to ask you about this because this was something in the research that caught me by surprise.
Okay.
And I hope that not everyone knew this but me, but I'm going to dare say most people don't know this. You were with Ben and Matt, not only in the Good Will Hunting journey, but you were offered to direct it very early on, and part of the team that brought it to Harvey at Miramax to begin with.
That's why we got our names on it.
You guys know that?
Well, I knew.
These cats are like, what's Good Will Hunting?
No, that's not true.
Oh.
But I knew that, like, they were making Dogma at the time that, like, they were winning all the Oscars.
Yeah, that's true.
So that makes sense.
But that means they shot Goodwill before Dogma.
Yeah,
we shot Chasing Amy, and then right after Chasing Amy, they went into Good Will Hunting, and right after Good Will Hunting,
Dogma.
We went into Dogma. Right while Good Will Hunting was in the midst of Oscar season.
Yes.
They left our set to go to the Oscars, and I remember, and then they won an Oscar. They did it twice. They went to the Golden Globes, and they won a Golden Globe, and they thanked everybody in the world, and they didn't thank us. And Joey Adams was up for a Golden Globe for Chasing Amy that year, and she saw Ben backstage. She gave him a quarter. She's like, you have someone to call right now. And he called me up. He's like, oh my God, dude, I fucking forgot. I'm so sorry. We won't forget you on the fucking Oscars. So me and Scott Mosier, producer of Dogma, like, we were shooting that day at the airport. In Dogma, there's a scene that opens a movie where they're in an airport and shit. We shot that, got it done under the wire to put them onto the fucking plane to go off to the Oscars where they won their Oscar. And all of us on the production are gathered in a room watching, and we're like, the boys won and shit like that. And me and Scott are especially excited because we're like, holy fuck, this is a movie we brought to Harvey and believed in and shit, and it's happening and shit.
So how does
it come? And they go through the thanks, and they're excited, and they thank everybody. Like, we're forgetting someone, who are we forgetting? And they threw in more names, and that's it. Good night, thank you. And fucking they didn't thank me and Scott. And for the next 5 years, anyone I ever knew was like, why didn't your boy thank you at the Oscars, bro? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess he forgot, or I'm like, I'd kick his ass, bro.
Oh my God.
Where I'm like, well, why? He doesn't have to thank me. You got that movie made, bro. Like, people have a different relationship with it than you do. But I will be honest, like that night, we left the Oscar watching party and me and Scott went upstairs to smoke cigarettes and be like, we put them on the plane. Like, the last thing they said was, if we win and ... But yeah, so anyway, we had a relationship to that movie. Did we do Chasing Amy? We did Mallrats, and I met Ben through Mallrats, and we were about to do Chasing Amy. Yes, because it was a screening at Mallrats that I met Matt Damon. And even before we did Mallrats, the day I met Ben for auditions on Mallrats, God, this is going back 22 years now. Mm-hmm. The day I met Ben for auditions on Mallrats, he had been in the Hollywood Reporter, him and Matt, for selling Good Will Hunting to Castle Rock, speaking of Rob Reiner. So when he came in, he was one of the many people who came in. I was like, hey, I read about you in the Hollywood Reporter. He goes, what? Did you? I said, yeah, you fucking sold the script for like almost $1 million. What are you doing here? You're rich. Fuck off. And he was just like, oh, he's gone. You read the trades? I was like, yeah, it's part of our business and shit like that. He goes, yeah, me and my friend sold the script, man, but we'll see what happens. It's Castle Rock. It's kind of cool. So he got cast in our movie and stuff. I cast him, and we made the flick, and so we became friendly. Then we had the screening of Mallrats at the Universal Live, the Hitchcock Theater, and he brought Matt. That was the first time I met Matt. So this is like in summer '95. And all of a sudden they pull us aside and they're like, we're having a hard time with Castle Rock. Because I was like, how's that fucking movie going with Meathead? Because Rob Reiner played Meathead in fucking All in the Family. How's the Meathead movie going? And they're like, well, there's a guy over there that they had, Matt and Ben had approval on directors. And there was a guy at Castle Rock who was one of the partners, Andy Scheinman, is
Andy
that one?
Scheinman.
Who was also a director. He directed Little Big League, or one of the little kid baseball movies. He liked the script very much. He wanted to direct it, and the boys didn't want that. They were like, no, we want somebody else. They wanted Gus to do it from the jump, because
holy shit,
Casey had worked with Gus, and Ben and Matt knew him. They all loved Gus and shit. So they always wanted Gus to do it. So Castle Rock made him meet with a bunch of people, but Andy was the one that kind of wanted it the most, but the boys had yay or nay say over it, so they kept stalling it. And so the movie was in this weird development hell. And they also kind of brought him in to have notes with, the guy that wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Bill Goldman.
Jesus.
They brought in Bill Goldman. They're like, sit down with Bill Goldman. He's the world's greatest screenwriter. He'll tell you what's wrong with your movie, and you'll do a rewrite. And Bill Goldman sat down with Ben and Matt and was like, they're paying me a lot of money, but I don't know what to tell you. They want me to push this storyline about the NSA, but I think that's stupid. I think this screenplay is really great. So they didn't take any Bill Goldman notes. But there were during the Oscars, there were these whispers that Bill Goldman worked on the script.
A lot of whispers.
Not a fucking, he told the boys no. He's like, I got nothing for you.
Love that.
And he even said, don't let them put the NSA into your movie. Because there was this idea of there needs to be something breathing down Will's neck. If the government wants him to work for him and shit like that, there's some threat. And it's like, that movie's not about that. Right. The movie's about, I happen to be fucking brilliant. My friends are not, but they don't give a fuck, and we all hang together. But maybe I am meant for more, but I am kind of just hanging out here cruising. Maybe I should grow up or something like that. It's not about I've been looking over my shoulder since the NSA tried to hire me. There's that one little wonderful monologue where he talks about how taking this dippy job is gonna fucking hurt somebody or some soldier or whatever. Eloquently put, and some studio executive at Castle Rock was like, let's draw out that NSA storyline, that'd be cool. And the boys fought it real hard. So they were like, we're having problems. Can you bring it in to Harvey or something like that? And we had a deal. We had just set up a deal after Mallrats. Before Mallrats came out, an overall deal with Miramax, me and Scott Mosier. So they're like, you like this Harvey guy, and he likes you, and he's going to make Chasing Amy and stuff. Why don't you maybe read the script, see if you like it? I said, all right, FedEx me the script. And they FedExed me the script. And I took it at Good Will Hunting. I took it into the bathroom and, started reading on the shitter. And then didn't get up for 2 hours, just kept fucking reading, got piles reading this fucking script and shit. Bawling, came out of the bathroom just in tears and snot. And Scott's like, well, that was a tough shit. And I was like, no, it was this fucking beautiful script.
I knew there would be a payoff to the fact that he read it on the shitter.
It has to be. Toilet jokes. So I was like, Ben wrote this. Ben, of all people. I said, with Matt Damon. I imagine Matt wrote most of it because this shit's brilliant. I said, this is legit good. Read it, dude. This ain't like a favor that some friend says, hey, can you get this? Like, this is a good fucking movie. Miramax would make this movie. So Scott read it and he was like, you're fucking right. Oh my God. And so we hit up John Gordon, who was our exec at the time. And he had been Harvey's like assistant for years, and now he was a production exec. So he was the one that brought us into Miramax, like after Mallrats. We knew him through Clerks, then we went to Universal, made Mallrats. He brought us back to Miramax, and I stayed there for like 12 years. So he loved the script too, and he's like, let's bring it into Harvey. And we had to go into Harvey and be like, look, this script was bought for $800,000 by Castle Rock, so it's going to come with turnaround costs. They're going to layer them on top. So the script's minimum $1 million. And it was written by some fucking friends of mine. That being said, I think this movie will win an Oscar. And he goes, well, I'm intrigued. Let me read it. And he fucking read it, and like it was that night. He was just like, let's do it. And the script was up for grabs by Castle Rock. Castle Rock was so frustrated with the boys that they wouldn't approve a director, let alone Andy Scheinman, that they put this deal in front of them where they're like, look, we're not going to make this movie, and we're going to let you take it out. You have 2 weeks or 2 months, I forget, to take it out and try to set it up elsewhere. If you do, God bless. But if not, it comes back here, and you guys are off the project, because they were tied to it as actors.
Right.
And we can hire Leo and fucking Toby, because they were the names back then. And so when Ben and Matt came to me, they were like, we got a window. Can you get it to Harvey Weinstein? And I said, let me read it. And I read it, loved it, got it to Harvey, and he picked it up and bought it. Like, to his credit, Harvey bought that from Castle Rock for $1 million. Like, without thinking twice, because he knew, he's like, this is going to win awards.
Starring a very not popular Matt Damon.
Yeah, he was coming off of, let's see, he had done
Courage Under Fire,
which he was fucking
It
brilliant
was brilliant,
in.
but it's a
And he
glorified
lost weight.
cameo.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in it for a minute.
And he had Rainmaker as well.
A starring role in a John Grisham.
Yes, but that I can't remember the timeline where that came out. It came out before Goodwill. Because I remember being like, one of the first times I met him, I was like, you fucking worked with Coppola. What was that like and shit? But he was always very sweet because of that. Like, they popped up, and well, Ben, I worked with for a long time, but Matt would come and do stuff forever as well. Very, very sweet. And I haven't reached out to him now for Jane Silent Bob reboot. I'm totally fucking reaching out to him.
You have to.
Such a nice dude, and because even if he says no, he'll be nice about it. He's such a good actor. He'll make me think it's my fault.
That's right.
So I'm still. It's worth a shot.
I'm going to be the same way with you.
You're in. You've been in. I mean, it's so sad. Like, I've written Kevin into almost everything I've done in the last few years. You had a big part in Clerks 3. Sadly, it's not happening. You had a big part in Mallrats.
The hockey one?
And hit somebody, the hockey one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I talk about making a lot of things.
I still tell the story.
Don't get to make them all.
I still tell the story, honestly. Met with several directors on projects. And I say, here's why if I want to do the thing, here's why I want to do it. And invariably it'll come up in the conversation where I'll say, I have an association, a relationship with the audience.
Right.
The best example I can give you is when Kevin Smith called me and asked me to be in his movie for 90 seconds. And I called Red State. And I said, why do you want me to be in this movie? And he said, Kevin, when you come on the screen, the audience is going to go, we like this guy.
He's normal. Things have normalized.
Everybody's safe. It's all going to be fine. So that when I put a bullet through your head, 90 seconds later, the audience goes, anyone could die. Yeah. They could kill anyone.
It was awesome. And
you cashed in on my entire body of work in 90 seconds.
In that shot. Yeah. That's why, it took a minute to get here, but I would always make the trip out here because you made the trip out into the middle of fucking nowhere.
I certainly did. Stephen Root and I talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
It was such a, especially, Stephen at least had some screen time and shit. He did. You pop up and you're like, hey, it's Pollock.
What do you need, Kev?
And suddenly, you're like, holy shit, all bets are off.
But when you said that and articulated it that way, it was a no-brainer instantly, aside from my...
You were Janet Leigh. I just stole that from Hitchcock. You were Janet Leigh. It's like, here we are, middle of the movie, and we're bringing in someone you love. Hey, you know this guy.
You've already got Goodman on the fence line.
Yes.
The audience is already feeling good about it.
He needs a buddy to talk to. Hey, here's Mutt and Jeff.
And the two of us are facing the thing joking, I believe.
Yes. There's a great line about the fucking, how much do you think a cross like that costs? And he goes, in dollars or common sense?
Yeah.
And then you go, zing.
Yeah. That's right.
Wonderful. And then bam, we take your eye. That was such a good movie. I wish, that's one of those movies where, I was like, sometimes they'll get it 5-10 years later. Like, I wish more people had gotten it in the moment, but I'm very happy with, like, years later, that movie still plays. And this year, more than ever, people have been like, this movie feels like it works today. I don't know what that means.
That movie plays and will play forever. I honestly, truly, there's a lot of talk at the time it's Kevin's most mature film. The fact of the matter is, you chose a genre you hadn't done before, and that genre is very fucking mature.
Yeah.
You don't take it lightly.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
It's a good movie. God, it's good. Everyone was so good. You know what? It's like that and Tusk. Like, I know a lot of people like, we love your early shit, and I love it too, but like, I love the late shit. I love the shit now because now I'm fearless. Like, now I'm like, I'm gonna make whatever the fuck I want because I can't kill my career. I've fucking tried so many times. And it's like, unless I wake up with like a fucking dead girl or a live boy, I'm gonna work forever,
Can you write that down, please? In that order.
So
dead girl, live boy.
I just gotta
can't reverse it.
Keep my nose clean, that's it, man. Like, and so at that point, like, I've been living on borrowed time since day one. I just wanted to make Clerks, that's it. I had no career path. I just wanted to see what that looked like. It was never like
$27,000?
$27,575. So now I've been playing on house money. It's like walking into a casino.
Yes.
Putting maybe, I won't even say $1, putting $200 in one of those ridiculous slot machines like you could win $1 billion and fucking winning that money.
Yeah.
And being like, all right, I'm gonna live off that for the rest of my life and let's see what adventures it can take me on and stuff like that. So it's more luck and timing. But talent, you want to know what the talent is, kids? Just do a thing.
Yeah.
It takes, not talent, but it takes courage. I don't want to limit it to balls. It's not, patriarchal. Anybody can do this shit. It takes courage to go, I'm going to do something that's outside the norm and I could fail at, and if I fail, people are going to judge me for it and blah, blah, blah. But just do that thing. The only failure is you laying in a box going like, life was long and I could have done so many fucking cool things that I wanted to, but now I'm dead and my last thoughts are circling the drain. And
get past the people are going to judge me.
Yeah,
because
fuck that.
Honestly and truly,
people are going to judge you whether you do shit or not.
That's it.
Like, just use the internet as a factor. People will fucking, like, here, this is the day that, like, I love the internet, but this is the day I realize I can't put my faith in the things that the internet says. They called out Quentin Tarantino and said he was a hack. I was like, look, I ain't sure of many things in life, but I'm sure of one fucking thing. That man's a genius.
Yes.
Like, that man reinvented cinema. That man is one of our greats. If there's a Mount Rushmore for filmmakers, he's on it. He's on it. So if somewhere in the world.
Sorry to interrupt. He also resurrected somebody. He's great at resurrecting the career.
Michael Parks.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis. John Travolta.
Totally.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell.
But yes, the man's an absolute legend. For somebody.
Don motherfucking Johnson. The list doesn't end.
For somebody to say like, oh, he's not very, bullshit.
Fuck you.
Bullshit. So if they can go after Quentin, they can go after anybody. And again, this day isn't a paranoid. It's just, don't worry. You're going to be made fun of. Here, I'll remove all the mystery from it. Someone's going to fucking mock you to death, man. But here, someone else is going to be like, that motherfucker's brave. Yep. You're going to inspire somebody else. Maybe that's not your game, where you're like, I ain't in the inspiration business. I'm trying to do this for me. But you'd be surprised what the inspiration of others can lead to the helping of your careers. You turn somebody else on, they want to be involved with you somehow. They want to help. So just do a thing. Don't fucking sit there and be like, I'm worried about it being judged. Fucking make it. Let it be judged. Because once you make a thing, makers are makers. You make one thing, you have to make another. You have to make another. Because suddenly you see it demystified. Quentin, the great Quentin we're talking about ourselves right here, once told me about, what was it? Fucking Kill Bill. He goes, I know I'm going to make another chop socky movie, kung fu movie. He goes, because just when I learned how to do it, we were done.
Right.
So he's like, I got to put that to use again. Why accrue that knowledge and not use it again?
Right.
So same thing. If you make anything, man, whether it's dog shit and people shit on it, or fucking whether it's celebrated and you're the toast of the town, it will lead to another thing.
That's right.
And you want to spend your life making shit. There's two paths in this world. There's creativity and destruction. And the destruction path is packed because it's full of fucking people. Because destruction is easy. It's easy to tear down shit. It's easy to be the group that's sitting there doing the dozens on the corner as opposed to the guys who are fucking singing songs. However, that's not to say that the guys doing the dozens can't fucking rise above as well. But it's easy to make fun of shit. It's very hard to create shit. So creation lanes are wide the fuck open. Nobody there because it's too scary and shit. Take creation, fuck destruction. There's too many people there. You're never gonna get anywhere. It's fucking clogged up. Take the path, the other path.
Insecurity is the most wasted of time emotion available to you.
Yeah.
You talk about the great sayings, Jamie, that we come across. Worrying.
I don't want to talk about your sex life anymore. Whatever you and Jamie come across,
Whatever
that's
you're
between
calling
you guys. You're like, here's the dictionary. Look at what I'm doing now. I'm trying to figure out new ways to come across.
Well, that's where thesaurus comes in handy.
That's right.
It's thicker.
Worrying is paying interest on a debt that you don't owe.
My favorite variation of that is worrying is interest paid in advance on a debt that never comes due.
That's right.
I stole that from David Mamet's movie, Spanish Prisoner.
Yeah, there you go. It's unbelievable. I'll find myself and I'm not a person who spends time or energy worrying about something, but I'll start to look into the future of a thing, and that's a trap.
That's where you trip.
Yeah, and then
there's no point. Think about this.
Just do it.
All the fucking concern in the world, all the head time that you give it is never going to change the result.
Also, your thing I really want to push about being scrutinized, the fear of being scrutinized, the fear of being attacked, the fear of being, well, someone's going to make fun of me. If you just stop and look at that as a time spent, you're accomplishing nothing in the time it takes to have those thoughts. The only thing you're accomplishing is getting in your own way, is putting up a block or hurdle.
Very true. And use the people you hate, kids. Like, if you're sitting there watching this going, I fucking hate Kevin Smith, or God forbid I hate Kevin Pollak, then don't just sit there and jump on the internet and be like, I hate him, who's with me? Use that as fuel, man. Because you're like, I hate them, and they're doing a thing that I think they're stupid and untalented at. But if they're doing that fucking thing and I think they're idiots, then God damn it, I should be able to do that thing. Use us, or me in this instance. Most people don't attack you. But, I got one of those careers where people are like, love them or hate them. If you hate me, man, I'm still useful to you. Use me to get to that thing. Use me as the thing you wake up in the morning and be like,
fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. I'm your fucking totem. I'm your power move right there. Because guess what, man? One day, because if you're trying to beat me at some other fucking imagined game, you will get there one day, and then you won't give a fuck about me because you'll have your thing. You'll have so many fucking things. Like, whenever I get shitty about where I am in the world or the career or fucking life or whatever the fuck, I just start writing and everything is better. Because if I'm gonna make up shit, might as well put it down on paper where it could be useful and shit. Up here is useless. Who am I telling the story to? Might as well tell a story to a bunch of people.
We have a thing you may remember on the show, Tweet 5.
Okay.
Hit that graphic, please.
T5.
This was written by
T5 forever now. I trust them to a degree.
TMF Chris Hill. These are 5 random this or that designed specifically for you.
Fantastic. You can go with this.
Ready?
You can go with that.
Marvel or DC?
Oh, fuck.
Gun to your head. Sophie's
DC.
choice. Gretzky or Gordie Howe?
Gretzky.
Damon or Affleck?
Oh.
You can't win here. The next one's going to be worse. A lot worse.
Affleck. Affleck sold me my house.
Directing wife or daughter?
Like more, or is that what I'm going for?
That's just the question.
Directing daughter. Way easier.
Bruce Willis in Whole 9 Yards or Die Hard 4?
Am I in Die Hard 4?
I think that's
yes, you're in.
I can deal with that one.
Am I in Die Hard?
But I'm in Whole 9 Yards.
I was in one of them.
But I'm in Whole 9 Yards, and I'm sure that's why they asked.
was, believe me, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Maybe I haven't said it in 9 years since I was on the show. Or you know what? I didn't say it when I was on the show last time.
Of course not.
Because we were in the midst of it and stuff.
You were saying it to me.
Kevin was an absolute fucking gem during the making of Cop Out. Look, the whole cast and crew were wonderful because they saw like that one guy being that guy. They all like came, or what do they call it, encircled me and fucking, don't worry, like they loved me, over-loved me for the lack of interest from the other guy. But Kevin was the fucking Bruce Whisperer. Like, you were brought to set because he wanted you there because of Whole 9 Yards. He's like, if I'm doing comedy, I want Kevin there. And when Kevin was around, Bruce was good and calm and in a fun mood and shit like that. So I wish that you could have been in every fucking scene. But for the times that you were there, you kept things wonderful. Like, I still have on my phone, let me see, there's probably a video of you
at the monitor with you?
Yeah, and doing an impression of, let me see, I'll scroll to it.
You can't possibly pull that up in a
I
minute.
guarantee you. I think so.
From 9 years ago.
If you're looking for years, I hate to say, I really do think it was 2009.
2009 was when the movie came out.
Well, you had to have made it then too.
we didn't
Well, we made here. We made it 2008 because we had reshoots over Christmas, and then the movie came out in February of 2009. I'm telling you, it was the summer of 2008.
That's crazy
when I
because we didn't
sold
start
out
the show until
Carnegie
March
Hall.
of 09.
Yeah, I know.
Check your dates.
Yeah. Somebody look up Kevin Smith Carnegie Hall.
Just look up.
And then you'll see the date, because that's when I did your chat show like the same week that I did that. But hold on, I'm getting to the end of my pictures here. This is riveting television.
That was the only time you
Also,
did Carnegie Hall?
Well,
Yeah, I only did it once.
Oh, then,
Never tried to
then
go
that
back.
will be easy to pull up.
Here I go. Get to these cop out. Yeah. Holy shit.
How did you find something from 2009?
Let me see. Let me make sure it's the date. Yeah, it is. It says June 2009.
June 17, 2009.
You're right. So I'm wrong. It wasn't 2008.
It's all right.
That was that. All right, here. Here's the. Let me make sure the volume's up.
Zoom that in, please.
And roll sound, please.
Act, bitch.
I just lost my glasses. I don't care.
God.
It was a little video, man. One more time.
Roll sound, please.
Act, bitch.
I just lost my glasses. I don't care.
That
Pulled that
was.
from his phone from 2009.
I like when he says act, bitch.
Act
I know,
bitch.
that's-
By the way, the whole movie, it was the weirdest way.
That's why Bruce Willis didn't like me, because I was like, act, bitch.
You kept wondering.
That was one of the funnest days on that show. That was when we were at that place in Brooklyn, the outdoor pizza
That's
joint,
right.
with the Italian ices and stuff. But he was on good behavior because you were around. So I thank you for that.
This also from the internet, from Brandon Parnas or Parnes. What are the differences and advice you can give in your approach to doing video like your YouTube channel and audio content like podcasts? So, look, one of the things I wanted to talk about was, and you mentioned it, the diversifying. You mentioned it in the form of directing is one aspect. It's the storytelling that I truly love.
Yeah.
So you found, if I
Other
may
ways to tell a story.
suggest, Nirvana in this world,
Oh, I love podcasts.
and taking it on tour and standing in front of an audience.
Dude, that's how I sing for my supper now. Like, you know, I had to withdraw from the heroin of movie making money because that money's fucking sweet. When somebody pays you to make pretend for a living, it's tough to go back to a real job.
Especially
ever.
studios, because the number is nutty.
Astronomical
They
and
make
stupid.
it fiscally irresponsible to say no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to get away from that, to wean oneself off that heroin and shit, I had to have something else to pay the bills. So, you know, I was used to getting up and doing Q&A and shit like that. So I've been doing that as a side gig for years. And then I just started the podcasting thing. We just hit the 10-year anniversary of Smodcast in February. We've been podcasting for 10 years. When me and Scott started,
That's crazy.
it was before, you know, when you think of the big podcasters now, it was long before Chris jumped in with Nerdist. It was long before Mark Maron jumped in with What the Fuck or WTF. It was long before Adam Carolla was still on radio, doing a radio show, so he wasn't in podcasting yet. So I fell in love with it over 10 years ago. We've been doing it for over 10 years now. And it's democratized storytelling. Anybody could fucking do it. And I've been saying for years, like, one day they'll figure out a way, like they'll FCC this shit and somebody will shut it down. No, they still haven't. So it was freedom. As a guy who grew up listening to Howard Stern every morning, and he would just talk about his fucking life, and, you know, he had a small dick and his wife didn't like him and shit. Like, you had perfect training. Or as somebody who did commentary tracks on Laserdiscs and DVDs, Scott Mosier sold it to me as, he's like, I've been listening to the Ricky Gervais podcast. I said, what's that? And he goes, Ricky Gervais, man, from The Office. I said, no, what's a podcast? And he goes, oh, the nearest I can tell, it's like a radio show, but you get it on the internet. He's going, best way I could describe it is, it sounds like when we do a commentary track, but there's no movie. And I was like, well, fuck, we should make one of these podcasts. So we started doing it way back then, and when me and Mosier started doing it, it was about, Our friendship was predicated on goofing around and making up funny, goofy situations when we met in film school. And then our relationship became all about the work and shit like that. We didn't goof around as much. So I was like, let's do one of these podcasts, and every week, and we'll make it public, and that'll mean we'll have to do it. We won't just let it fall by the wayside.
Right.
But we'll never let it be a business. And he was like, all right. And we started recording it and stuff. And, for a while, I think maybe at one point we sold t-shirts, but it was never turned into a business until one day Scott was like, I got to make some loot fast in between gigs. And I was like, all right. I said, what if we took Smodcast out on the road and tried doing it in front of people? Because we talked about it like for a few episodes, and he was like, what a ridiculous notion. Two people sitting on stage talking to one another. It'll never fucking work.
Right.
And so I called my agent and I was like, I want to try a tour in Smodcast. And he goes, what is that? I was like, it's a show that me and Scott do. We just sit there and talk to each other. He said, what do you do? How do I sell that? I was like, I don't know. I go to a place, I stand there and I talk to them, like during Q&A. Now just make it I'm talking to this person. So I was doing very well as like a Q&A guy and stuff. But suddenly you're like, I have a new business model. And they're like, all right, well, now you're going to drop down to this. And the venues got very tiny, which I was like, fine, I get it. Nobody understood, like, recording a live podcast.
Right.
And so we went out and toured, and he made some loot and shit like that. And suddenly it became a business where I was like, dude, people will sit around and give us money to watch us talk to each other.
Around the world, by the way.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite quotes from the research is you were doing one of these with Jason.
Jason Mewes, the guy that I stand next to in movies and in real life.
And you were in London, and 15 minutes into the live podcast, someone in the audience yelled out, do you remember?
This sucks.
The fuck is this?
Yes. That was the first time. That actually shaped the show. We've been doing it for so long. This London gig was the first time we did, I think, out of the country. And the show sold out instantly. It's the Hammerstein Ballroom. It's massive. It's about 3,500 or something like that. So we were like, holy shit, is the first one to sell out. They must love these fucking movies. They must love the podcast, I said.
Right.
They didn't know the podcast.
They didn't know what you were talking about.
They knew the movies.
Right.
So when we showed up and we were sitting on stage and just talking to each other and shit, about 15 minutes in,
not being like, Jay and Silent Bob.
No, not dressed up, which would be stupid. One guy would be standing there silent the whole time.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
But that guy bought tickets thinking he'd see us do Jay and Silent Bob live, which is kind of strange. But there we were talking. He's like, he's fucking talking about his fucking teeth. Because Jason was talking about going to the dentist and shit. And I'd never been heckled in my entire fucking life. Never.
You had to go to London for it.
I had to get heckled in London and shit. And I kept composure and I made some funnies and shit.
But I told very charming.
I tried to.
The person heckling?
They were.
Yes, the person
No, they weren't. They were fucking, they weren't even like.
Their blue collar makes our blue collar look
hostile.
Like sophisticated.
He sounded like a soccer hooligan, like a football hooligan. Like
fuck is this?
Exactly. He was angry that I paid for good fucking money. And I'm like, holy shit.
This guy's going to kill us.
So from there forward, I added this beat in the show where I had to explain the show, just in case. Because, following the philosophy of Stan Lee's every comic book is someone's first comic book. Every episode of Jay and Silent Bob Get Old might be somebody's first. So, we'll wind up doing like opening banter for like a half hour. If we're lucky, we could stretch it to an hour. And then I'm like, okay, we're just about ready to start the show, ladies and gentlemen. How many people have ever heard the podcast, Jay and Silent Bob Get Old? Put your hands together. And then you hear a majority of the crowd, because why else would they be there if they hadn't heard it? But then I flip it and go, now how many people have never heard, just for our own edification, how many people have never heard the podcast? Put your hands together. And then you will hear like a smattering to a large percentage.
7 to 11%.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that means there's a percentage of people in the audience who are fucking baffled right now, because like, why is the fat one talking right now at all? I don't get it. And then have to explain that, like, we don't do our characters as an intervention podcast and shit. So that moment changed the show. But I remember, like, you think you're prepared for everything in life. And I was always prepared for a fucking, like, to get taken on one-on-one.
Right.
Like if I was standing up there doing Q&A, which probably wouldn't happen because, people are there to see a Q&A anyway. But I wasn't prepared for somebody to go after, like, him or us or the idea, the concept of the show. Like, what, you're just going to sit here and talk to each other? It's like, well, yeah, isn't that what you bought tickets for? And you're like, apparently he bought tickets for something else.
Also, what's behind that, you mentioned it's an intervention podcast. The conceit, the premise originally was,
keep him sober.
I want my friend to stay sober, so we're going to do this on a regular basis so we can check in and see how he's doing.
And do it with humor, to be fair.
Of course.
It was never meant to be like medicine or something like that.
Well, you know how fucking funny he is.
Yeah. I've lived with him for a long time, and I've known him even prior to that. And it's
And
like,
you've said
even in his habitual state, when he was using and shit, he was fucking funny shit happens to users.
But you've insisted he's made you funny. He's behind your own self-confidence.
Absolutely.
And
You never met the real Kevin Smith. You met Kevin Smith plus Jason Mewes, plus Brian Johnson, Walter Flanagan, Scott Mosier, all the people that I met and worked with and stole from over the years to build like the fucking Frankenstein's monster that is the public version of me, which is, to be fair, pretty fucking close to the
It's who you are
real
now.
version. It is. Like, basically, I was able to craft something into like, okay, I like this guy. This is who I am now and stuff. And Jason had a lot to do with that. Jason has always been so fucking free. Now, he's also, like, I remember when we were younger, there would be charges of people like, he's very misogynistic. And I was like, I personally don't think so, because to be a misogynist, you have to have an opinion. You have to have a stance on women. You're talking about a guy who just has no filter. Like, so he thinks a thing and it comes out of his mouth. He has no moral barometer, so it's not him going like, I like pussy because he's trying to be rude. He says it because he likes pussy, and he doesn't have that filter that stops you from saying out loud, hey, I like pussy too. And because of that, he's unguarded, and people find that warm and charming in a weird way. Not everyone, granted. It took mothers a long time to warm up to him. But like, when I put him in the movie, you know, it was clear that like everybody knew a guy like him.
Yeah.
Like, I put him in Clerks because I was like, I just want to see if anyone else thinks you're funny. I think you're fucking brilliant, but I want to see if anyone else thinks you're funny. So I'm gonna stick you in this fucking movie. I'm gonna write this part for you.
Every
Stick this in
time
the
he
movie.
talks in the movie,
Yeah.
you want
In
everyone
life,
else to
in
shut
general.
up.
Yeah. He's just got it.
And you were the first one to go, I'm going to shut up. You go ahead and talk.
My whole career, I stand next to him shutting up, except on the podcasts. That's why they should give me a fucking Oscar for that Silent Bob role, because you see how I like to
It's
talk.
ironic.
Yes, it's true
Please.
irony that I played Silent Bob all
If
that
you
time.
look up the definition,
I know.
it's you being silent.
Maybe I'm chatty now because I had to be silent all those years,
Nope.
as Tori Amos used to say. Thank you. One 80s, late 80s, 90s kid remembered.
Can I ask a quick question?
Please, get in there, Sammy.
You mentioned
We're running out of time, believe it or not.
dentistry before.
Let me tell you about working with Quentin.
Yeah?
We could have actually went right to the source. The two of us are sucking Quentin's dick. You were there. What's it
I was
like?
there.
Magic Man,
He's a
right?
fucking genius.
Goddamn
You
genius.
said it, right?
I remember when he was going off to make that movie, man.
Yeah.
It was after, what was that fucking flick? The Road movie, where, you know,
Oh, Death Proof.
after Death Proof.
Yeah.
Which I
And Death
love.
Proof. I loved both of those fucking movies.
People always forget that one.
And he, like, you know, was like, oh man, he felt like that movie didn't do well for him by his standards. By my standards, it was fucking astounding.
Which one?
Death Proof, because it
What was
came out in
called?
Grindhouse.
Grindhouse, yes.
Yeah.
So he felt tagged. Like, it was weird. I've never seen a successful person be unsuccessful in person. I live that way. Like, you know, I win and lose, but this was a guy who is all win. And I guess the movie didn't do what he wanted to do, because I'm sitting there going, we were at the ArcLight, and there was an Edgar Wright screening of Spaced, and we were at the bar upstairs afterwards, and he's just like, yeah, man, it didn't fucking do it, man. I was wrong. I misread the audience. I was like, you're out of your mind. That fucking movie's brilliant. He's like, but nobody went. And I was like, you made $30 million. That's like my top box office gross. He's like, I ain't trying to be Kevin Smith. I was like, fair enough. Neither am I. But I said, well, what are you doing now? He's going, I'm going to fucking Germany, and I'm going to show him that I know how to fuck again. I'm going to take my fucking big dick and I'm going to fuck it. I'm going to do it again. Like, he was pumping himself up to go make Inglourious Bastards. And I remember thinking, like, even a genius has a moment of self-doubt. Even a guy who it's like, everything you've done professionally has been a flawless fucking improvement of not just pop culture, but the culture in general.
Let that be an example of the perception in the marketplace, the business side of something, cannot dictate the achievement. It just can't. I'm driving on Sunset Boulevard for whatever reason. I knew George Clooney at Warner Brothers and blah, blah, blah. And he pulls up in a convertible at a stoplight, literally. Couldn't be more random. And I'd just seen Out of Sight, the Soderbergh film,
Awesome
which
movie.
to this day is
Stellar.
one of the best he or Soderbergh's ever done, in my humble
Jennifer
opinion.
Lopez, who's amazing in that
Jennifer
movie, too.
Lopez won't even come close. And I said, whatever, blah, 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 how brilliant, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, tanked. Because it just opened it to no business. And that's how he defined the moment.
That's most
And I
of the
just
mindset
felt
for us.
horrible for him, because he had no choice. He'd been programmed to think, opening weekend, opening weekend, opening weekend.
Right. Meanwhile, he made one of the greatest American films made in the last 20 years.
a shining example almost of contemporary noir.
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, we're our worst taskmasters and our worst.
If you give in
judges.
to expectations, if you
Yeah.
give in to.
And it's not to say like, fucking everyone gets a participation trophy and we're all winners and shit. Yeah, there's an aspect of the business that's like there's money, so that makes it the horse race, makes it sexy, but it also makes it like so that a guy who's that successful can be like tanked. But once you ameliorate the money situation, it's like these things aren't about what it do this weekend. I mean, that's the sexy and that's what you can chart, but that's newspapers.
It's
and they
also
wrap
random
fish
that
in
no
it.
one can guarantee or predict if they do. They're coming back from the future. The truth
true
of the matter
tale-
is, you be true.
And
you
the true tale is like, ask me in 5 years.
Right.
Like, ask George Clooney. The next time you saw George Clooney 5 years later, you were like, out of sight. He would do 10 minutes on what a great time, how important the movie was and
Some
stuff.
of the best work I've ever
Some
done.
of the best work he's ever done, because you'll have distance and clearance and not that like, we got to do this. This is what it's all about. It's so myopic to look at that fucking weekend and aim for that weekend. I mean, but that's why when it works, everyone's hooray, and you pop champagne, and fucking even people who live in Pacoima are like, hey, did you see what movie's #1 this week? Like, it's interesting. It's some fucking something to look at over the weekend and shit like that. But remove that Sturm and Drang. You're making something that has to last forever. Not that weekend. That weekend doesn't tell the tale. It tells a story, but not the main story. The main story is 10 years later, people still talking about it. 20 years later, people still talking about the movie. Few Good Men holds up fucking how many years later? It's 30 years?
That made $500 million. I have a better example for you. Usual Suspects did $22 million domestic.
There you go. And
There's no more shining example of a perennial that it regenerates a new audience every fucking
that's
year.
true. Absolutely.
22 million domestic.
Yeah.
Bombed.
I'll do you one better, man. Mallrats, which is the movie on my fucking grave, they'll write, oh, he did Mallrats. Probably, maybe Clerks, but definitely Clerks, maybe Mallrats. Mallrats made $2 million when it came out. And when I tell people that today, like when I'm like, that movie flopped, critics hated it and it flopped. This is the response I get from most people. I swear to you, this has happened on more than one occasion, so much so that has become a stock answer that I smile at. They go, no, it couldn't have tanked. I had that on DVD. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? These two
I
things
own
are not
that movie.
connected. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, don't let failure be defined by others. You know when you failed. Like, you don't need somebody else to fucking tell you. And if you listen to other people, they'll tell you failed way more times than you ever fucking did.
Yeah.
Because life's a crab pot. Nobody wants to fucking champion other people and shit like that. When they see you making a move to get out of the crab pot, 1,000 legs try to pull you back down, because misery loves company. Find people that will fucking elevate you, not just execute material, but help you elevate material and elevate you out the crab pot and shit. And then you can pull people up with you.
Also, if you're just being true to what you find interesting or funny or whatever the result is, you write something and it makes you laugh. That's the victory. And then you give it to someone you trust and they read it and they laugh. You feel great about that.
Can I tell a Jay Leno story quickly? I know that's not really in vogue, but it
I
actually,
would rather you tell it not so quickly.
I'll tell it long. Here we go. I was talking to him one day. Like, he's a guy that, I was on that show a bunch, the Tonight Show. And then he'll always pop in before the show. Hey, how you doing? And shit, and talk. So he was sitting there talking about some fucking movie I was promoting. I don't even know what it was. All dready and head to toe in a fucking Canadian tuxedo. Mm-hmm. So he's blowing me up about whatever movie I was there with. And I was like, dude, it's fucking, like, it might have been Jay and Silent Bob Strike, but I don't know what it was. But I was like, it's just a movie, dude. You fucking do this every day. Every day you get up and you guys make an entire fucking show. It's an hour and a half long. Like, that's huge. Like, don't fucking blow up movies. You do this. I do it once. You do it 5 times a fucking week. And he goes, TV's disposable. Nobody remembers a fucking thing we do. We do it on a Monday. They've forgotten by the end of the show on Monday. He's going, people don't sit there and record the episodes and go back and watch them and stuff like that. But a movie, he's going, like, everybody stopped what they were doing for 2 months in their life, and they made this one thing, this one moment that has to stand out there for. He truly romanticized the process. And I, as a TV baby, was like, you're out your fucking mind. Like, I've made movies. If an idiot like me can do it, trust me, it's not special. What you guys do here is generate every fucking day. You make people's lives better, but it's the other side of the fence. That was a guy that was just like, what they do over there is amazing, and it's not. And I was on the other side of the fence going, what they do over there is amazing. He's like, it's not. You'll never stay in your lane, as they say, but, you'll never know how happy you are until you talk to somebody doing the thing that you want to do, that you think you're missing. And then they'll be like, oh, it's not what you think it is. Like, enjoy your thing.
Yeah. Comic book men and geeking out. Comic book men 6th season?
We're coming to our conclusion of season 6. I was just in New York. I went to AMC. AMC Networks had their upfronts where they have the advertisers and press come in and stuff. So, and that looks, I mean, we're finishing up season 6. The fact that I came out for the upfronts, I'm reading positive signs into. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't imagine that they're like, come for the upfronts, and they're like, go fuck yourself, season 7. So I feel like we might get to season 7. If we do, we get to 100 episodes. And this was a show that when it started, like, you know, there were a bunch of people that wrote articles about it going like, I own a comic book store and this is horse shit. Like, these people now, because they're showing people on TV coming in with their crap, now I got people coming into my store with their crap trying to sell me their shit. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you're a retailer who's mad that somebody walked into your store? Like, you're welcome. Like, you know, if you want to flip that, if you got them there and you want to sell them something, that's on you. That's what you're supposed to do. But
you had to convince your own partners, though. One of them said, I don't want to be Snooki.
Yeah, Walter Flanagan's like, I don't want to be Snooki. So I was like, AMC wants to do an unscripted reality show. Click, and he hung up the phone. I called up and I was like, why are you hanging up? He goes, I don't want to do that. And I said, why, man? Shoot at the stash. It'd be amazing. He goes, I like my dignity. I don't want to be Snooki.
I don't want to be Snooki.
And I said, why? Dude, Snooki made a lot of money last year. And he goes, my dignity is worth more than getting punched in the face on network television. I said, that was MTV. It wasn't network. I said, this is AMC. It won't be network. And I sold it to Walter on like, look, if we do the show and it works, it's like a free commercial for the store, and then the store can stay open, because we were like looking at one more year left to the store. So, you know, he was like, all right, if it's a free commercial for the store, fuck it, I'll do it, because he likes the store. And then he said, but Brian's got to do it. You got to get Brian to say yes. And Brian didn't even work at the store anymore. So I said, but Brian doesn't work there. He goes, that's the fucking point. And he hung up. And so I called up Brian.
There's a lot of hanging up.
There's a lot. Walter's he's always ready to spring in action. So
What
I called
move,
up.
though?
Yeah, bang. He's like, wow, that's class. So I called up Brian and I was like, I called up Walter. You know, I just told him that AMC, you're never going to believe this, AMC wants to do a reality show set at the Secret Stash. And Brian's like, oh, Flanagan ain't going to like that. I said, no, he didn't like it. He goes, what did he say? I said, he said that he didn't want to be Snooki. And Brian goes, who wouldn't want to be Snooki? She made a lot of money last year. I was like, that's what I fucking said, dude. Apparently me and Johnson, we're in it for the buck, and Walter's in it for the integrity of it all. So I was like, he said that he'll fucking do it if you do it. And Brian's like, but I don't work at the store. He's like, that's his point. He wants you to be like Norm from Cheers. He just can't be funny unless you're in the room. So will you do this? And Brian was like, nah, they're going to make us look like assholes. All those people on reality TV, they look like assholes and shit. Where I come from, we all got chips on our shoulders, not in the way of like, I'm better than you, but like, you know, you're New Jersey. You live in the shadow of fucking New York, of the other, of something far more greater and important to you that everybody in the world fucking talks about. Keeps the pulse. You're the guys that make the nuclear waste next door. You're the butt of a joke and stuff. You got little brother syndrome for the rest of your fucking life when you're from Jersey. My friends are obsessed, or were, I don't know if it's so much anymore, but with not looking stupid.
Right.
I don't want to look fucking stupid. And you know, I didn't give a fuck. I wanted to be in entertainment. I'm like, oh my God, I'll fucking put a dick in my mouth to look stupid. Like that's what it takes. But these cats were like, I'm not willing to fucking risk. They didn't have an entertainment bug in them. They were very clever, very funny people, original thinkers. But they weren't like, oh, you could make a movie, or oh, well, let's do a TV show. Like that happened in a different world. So there was never this belief that could happen. So because of that, there's this belief that if you try that shit and it fails, you look like an asshole, and who would ever risk that?
So don't.
And I remember I told them, like, you know, when they agreed to we shot a sizzle reel for Comic Book Men. It was like a 7-minute version of the show to show AMC what it would look like. And we shot at the Stash. And before I got there, and there's like mini crew setting up and stuff, and electricity of production. I saw Brian and Walter, and they were just leaning against the wall, like two dudes at a high school dance, just fucking staring at everything with that look on their face that I recognized as like, I don't like this. They're gonna make us look like assholes. That fucking fear or whatever. So I pulled them outside. I was like, let's go outside for a second. And I said, look, I don't know how else I was gonna say this, so I'm just gonna say it. I have no more tricks up my sleeve. Like, I'm done. I'm wrapping up a career. You hear me talking about retirement and shit like that. I'm not gonna do this anymore. So I don't have anything fucking left. This TV show wasn't even my idea. AMC came to me. So this is a fucking gift. Just falling out of the sky. Could you imagine? You get to be on TV, someone will pay you to be yourself. You don't even have to act. You just have to be Walt. You just have to be Bry. So that's if we're lucky. But we can't get there without this. So do me a favor. Like, if we're gonna do this and all these people are here, just fucking try. Like, don't fucking sit there and wear a puss. Don't phone it in. Don't fucking be like, ooh, all quiet and shit. Be you guys. Like, you know, don't worry that there are cameras here. Just fucking do what you do normally. You guys are fucking stellar. Be who you are on the podcast. That's what got us here. Their podcast, Tell 'em Steve Dave, which spun out of Smodcast, was the basis of Comic Book Men. So I was like, just be you guys, please. And to their fucking credit, they went in there and they fucking turned it on. They didn't, I don't even know if it was turned it on. They just didn't turn it off, which I was most scared of.
Right.
So they went in and did what I hoped they would do, which was just be themselves and fucking bicker. And AMC loved that. They were like, these two fucking dudes sound like they've been married 30 years. They fight so much. I'm like, yeah, they kind of have.
You're Carl Pilkington.
It was the basis for everything, yeah. Jason's our Carl Pilkington,
Yeah,
let's be
of course.
honest.
Oh my God, where's the time gone? Just a couple of guys sitting around chewing.
Bullshit, a couple Kevins.
That's it.
Kevins can wait.
Please.
I say, do you want to finish your question?
No, it's not important.
You never got to do it.
That's
I
all
cut
right.
you off with
It
questions.
was
Go.
so stupid.
Go, ask.
It was so stupid. Do you like Ben Affleck's new teeth or old teeth?
Wow, what a great question. That's not stupid. That's good. That's insightful. Well, you'd have to ask the question, what do they represent?
Right.
The new teeth, and to be fair, there are the new teeth and then the new teeth.
New teeth, yeah. He's
So
already
the
on
new
his
teeth,
third
what
set.
I think of as the new teeth, or classic Affleck, if you look at Chasing Amy, he's got fucked up grill. He's got normal human being teeth.
Yep.
One of the next jobs he got after that was Armageddon, or Armageddon, as Harvey used to call it, with Michael Bay at the helm. And one of the first things that Michael Bay said to him is, "We're gonna fix your fucked up teeth." And they fucking gave him, this beautiful movie star grill. And then for the town, not Argo, for the town, he went in and had the dentist fuck him up. So then I guess he got new teeth.
Yeah.
I will always be partial to old teeth Affleck,
Right.
because that was the dude I fell in love with. He was everything like you wanted to be. It's like, wow, this motherfucker's confident. He's never made anything that's ever connected with an audience, but he believes there's an audience waiting for him.
Yeah.
Like, we shot a take on Chasing Amy and he fucking ad-libbed something. I went over, I was like, why'd you fucking do that? He's like, I left that in. He's, leave that in there. That's for my peeps. They'll find it hysterical. And I was like, it's 1996, bitch. You have no peeps except me. And I didn't find that entertaining at all. So, like, yeah, he just believed in himself. Like, I stole, I always go like, oh, you never met Kevin Smith. You met Kevin Smith plus Jason Mewes and Scott Mosier, Walter Bryan. Affleck was definitely a part of that. Like, Affleck, I loved how he presented. He was 100% authentic and shit like that. And, naked in his ambition, but like, it was kind of sweet how fucking, how when the first time, like on Mallrats, when he fucking, I tell the story a lot, but it's one of my favorite stories, just one of my favorite versions of Ben Affleck. One doesn't really exist anymore. Somewhere deep inside, I'm sure it does. But on Mallrats, he was working on Good Will Hunting with the folks at Castle Rock, with particularly Rob Reiner. So he came to me one day and he goes, I don't work for 4 days. He's going, like, we're working on, this movie with Meathead. Would you mind if I flew back to Los Angeles and did that? I was like, no, not at all. Just come back when you got to shoot. And he was like, thanks. And so he left. And when I went to my office at the mall, there was a note on my desk. Like, now we're in the age of the text or the email. There was a fucking handwritten note in an envelope, and I opened it up. It was a note from Ben Affleck. And it was like, I just want to say thanks for casting me in this movie. I'm having a great time, and for letting me go to work on this thing. I'll be back when you need me. You're a great guy. And every time he left, he'd write me a little fucking note. And I found that so endearing and shit. His mom's an English teacher, so it makes sense.
Oh, man.
So I said to him, like, when he finally left the set, he was finished. He's like, we're done. I got nothing left to shoot. Write me more scenes. I was like, no, dude. Like, you're in the movie more than I thought you would be and shit. And he goes, well, where are you going to cut this thing? I said, Los Angeles. And he goes, great. I live in Los Angeles, man. So he goes, when you get to LA, you got to look me up, man. We should hang out because I'm a good guy. And I swear to God, he to this day, he's like, I was being ironic, Kevin. But I swear to you, he was so sincere. He's like, we should hang out. I'm a good guy. And I was like, all right, like, if I was a girl, like it would have been like our meet cute story. I was like, all right, you are a good guy. And so we started hanging out with him, and I liked him so much. I was like, this guy's fucking funny and original, and he's never these characters he's played in the movie. Like in Days of Confused, he played O'Banion. He's the guy that wanted to like wallop everybody. In Mallrats, he plays the guy, the Shannon Hamilton, who's trying to fuck, Shannon Doherty in an uncomfortable place, and not the back of a Volkswagen. So he's always playing like big fucking douchey dudes. But in real life, he was not a big douchey dude. He was like a sweetheart and fucking smart and total. And I'd always say, like, you should be a leading man. He goes, yeah, well, fucking stop making me play shit like Shannon Hamilton. And so I quietly did. I wrote like the part in Chasing Amy and I never told them. I was never like, I'm gonna write this for you. Joey knew I was writing it for her and stuff, but I never told Ben. And when I started writing and Joey was reading pages I was writing, she goes, who's gonna play Holden? And I was like, Affleck. And she goes, Ben Affleck? And I was like, well, yeah, who else? She's like, well, he does have a brother. And I was like, no, this is Ben. You know him and shit. And he was in Mallrats with us. And she's like, I guess. So I remember I was in Tampa. Joey was working on this show called Second No, and I was visiting her in Tampa where they were shooting. And I worked on a bunch of pages, and I was like, you know what? I was 60 pages in. I was like, maybe he don't want to do this. I should really ask him, because I'm writing it to his voice and shit like that. Because instead of being like, somebody should make you a leading man, I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. So I called him and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, no, just let it go, Smitty. He does that for like 10 hours before you start your conversation. And then I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, nothing. And I said, he goes, what are you doing? I was like, I'm visiting Adams, shooting the show in fucking Tampa and shit. And he's like, you and Adams, dude. And I said, well, I just called you because I'm writing this movie for Adams. He goes, oh, fucking figures, man. Fucking chick gives you a little, lets you get to second base, you write a whole fucking movie. And I was like, I got news for you. You've gotten farther than second base, I'll have you know. I said, but that's what this call's about. She's not the only one I'm writing a movie for. I was like, I'm writing you the male lead in the movie. And there was dead silence on the phone, and I was like, wow, how's he gonna react? I thought maybe he'd be like rolling a tear and be like, thank you. And he goes, finally, And I was like, really? And he goes, yes, bitch. You constantly say I could be a leading man. Fuck yes. What's the picture called? I was like, Chasing Amy and stuff. It's kind of based on me and her relationship. He's like, oh, I'm playing you? I'll start eating right now. He goes, I said, you don't have to do that. It's not me, but it's just a version and shit like that. So he came down to Red Bank. He was like, when can I see it? We didn't have internet, so I couldn't be like, I'm going to email it to you now.
Sure.
So I was like, well, I'm going to be back in Red Bank in Jersey like fucking Monday. Why don't you come down from Boston? That's when he still lived in Boston. So he trained down from Boston. He came to the office and we hung out and went out to eat and shit like that. And then I gave him Chasing Amy, and it was not done. It was 76 pages, wasn't done yet. So I was like, here it is, you get to read it on the train ride home. And he goes, train ride home? Aren't you gonna drive me home? I was like, fuck no, you live in Boston, bitch. You got here on a train, take a train back and shit. And he's like, God damn it. He's going, this ain't gonna last me a fucking train ride. It's 4 hours to Boston, what else you got? And I was like, I wrote a script a while ago called Dogma, you wanna read that? He's like, what's it about? I was like, angels. He's like, all right, fucking give me that. It'll give me something to do. There was no internet. There was no phone for him to kill time on. He's had a 4-hour train ride. No book. Well, he could have bought a book, but he was cheap. So I sent him back on the train with a script for Chasing Amy and Dogma, and then he called me when he got to Boston. I was like, what did you think of Amy? He goes, yeah, lesbians, nice, but this Dogma movie. He's going, bitch, I want to play Bartleby. And I was like, oh, really? He's going, yeah, this is brilliant. He's got that fucking monologue and shit. And I was like, all right, well, one day if it works out and shit, I mean, the bridge to that is Chasing Amy, so let's get that right. So in that weird period, like Chasing Amy happened, Dogma got set up, and Good Will Hunting got set up at the same time. And right after that, the teeth changed. And I'm not trying to write a scenario of when the old teeth went away, so too did the old Ben. But it was clearly he was on his way to something far larger than
being the
what
movie
we were
star that you knew he wanted to be. By the way,
and playing a part in it, which always felt good until and it still feels good to this day. And he paid me back in spades. He sold me his house in Los Angeles. That's where I raised my kid, and he sold me it cheap, so I got a good rate and shit. But I do remember there was a moment where I was like, oh. We are of two different worlds now, because I always believe like we're all doing this shit together. I recast all the same people, created a troupe, but we'll do this till we're old and dead and shit like that. We were somewhere once, and it was after Good Will Hunting. It was after like Armageddon. He was already like marquee Ben Affleck, but before the Argo, or before the Gone Baby Gone rebirth, before he was reborn as a director. So he was an A-list actor and shit like that. Probably around Daredevil, if I had to guess. And he said this thing where and it wasn't shitty, he wasn't being shitty, and I don't want to paint it as that, but it was a real eye-opening moment where we were talking about movies. And he was talking about this movie that they were trying to pull together, and agencies and studios and blah blah blah. And I made the mistake of going, well, yeah, like we had that when we were doing Dogma that one time. And with not an insanely patronizing look, but this kind of like, well, Kev, it's not the same thing. You make those small movies. This is like one of the big movies. And you make those small movies was not like, I'm done with him, but that was when I realized like, oh, we're not gonna do this forever. Like, you're on a different path. And what I think of as like seminal, massive moments in my life were just some movies that you made when you were a kid.
On your way.
Now, life is long, and I'm sure he will have more than enough time to circle back. As one ages, they think about youth and shit like that. And I've seen him do interviews online where he talks about like, I love those movies and Kevin and blah, blah, blah. But, it's the guy who slept on my couch when we made Chasing Amy and stuff, like he grew up, and probably for the best and stuff like that, and became a massive movie star, which is what we all wanted. Like,
Yeah.
I dreamed your dream for you, and now your dream is real.
That's right.
So, it's weird, but I'll always be partial to the fucked up grill Affleck.
It does bring us to our last.
Matt Damon kept his fucked up teeth.
Yeah.
Ba-boom.
Matt Damon, 100% real. So is Ben.
It brings us to our last question,
Okay.
which is also a famous question because it comes from Matt Myra.
Oh, right on. I know Matt. Matt just got me a job recently. We do a podcast together called Talk Salad and Scrambled Eggs, in which we do unasked for commentary tracks of every episode of Frasier.
Yes.
So we stopped it for like a year because I got busy, and then he got busy, got a job on the Goldbergs. And then right before Christmas, he goes, hey man, would you ever direct an episode of the Goldbergs? And I was like, fuck yeah. So I went and directed an episode of Goldbergs. That was the Batman episode, which just aired on this week, that just finally aired. And I also directed the season finale. We're directing something that you didn't write.
Yeah.
You don't use the same set of muscles at all.
But you got that with Daredevil, and you got that with. I'm not Daredevil.
Cop Out, he didn't.
Cop Out,
right?
yes.
Flash.
True. Flash and Supergirl,
I mean, that's
absolutely.
a movie, but
But
you didn't
within
write. That was the first thing you
Supergirl,
directed that you didn't write.
yeah, well, that would be Reaper for CW. I did a pilot years ago.
I meant film.
That was, film would be Cop Out. But working on something you didn't write is always weird for me because I always thought of the job as like, there's only one way to do this job, and that's the way I did it and got successful doing it, and blah,
But
blah,
it
blah.
turns out you were right. For you, there is only one way.
Kinda.
Yeah.
And like I can be, it's weird. It's like you just don't use the same muscles. Like when I'm directing the Goldbergs, I don't go in there and be like, hey Wendy, here's how you play this. This is what you're feeling. Like she knows exactly how to do that character.
Sure.
You don't change the look of the show. They shoot wide, cowboy, and close. That's it and stuff. So it's not like, let's bring a sweeping camera in here and shit. So at the end of the day, and also I don't even go in between takes and be like, ooh, say this, which is what I normally do in my world. There's a brilliant guy named Lou Schneider who sits there in every episode, and that's his job
I
to
love
go
Lou.
over. Yes.
I didn't realize Lou was the guy on that show.
A wonderful fucking dude, and who has done 4 seasons of that and many seasons of, Everybody Loves Raymond.
Right.
He's got long comedy roots,
Yeah,
deep comedy
from
roots.
stand-up back in
and from stand-up, he
the
comes
early
from the
days.
world of stand-up. So his job, he sits there shotgun, and after every take, we'll run in with alts and say it like this, which to me is direction. So I'm like, well, if he's here, there's really no point for me to be here. But in that world, that's not what they want from a TV director.
Right.
What they want is, I don't know what they want, but what I can do
Right.
is I'm just happy to be there.
Yeah.
I'm usually very enthusiastic and energetic. I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna fucking do it. And I applaud after everything and make everybody applaud and shit. And I bring the energy up. And because of that, I guess the actors and the crew like me, and that's why I get asked back. But the fundamental, aspects of my job as I would identify them, I don't do in that world at all. Maybe every once in a while I could problem solve or something like that. Be like, oh, if we move the camera over here, it's a little easier. But it's weird. It's like when I married my wife, this is going to sound ridiculous, but when I married my wife, I was very good at oral sex. I can eat pussy like you read about. My wife, not a fan of getting her pussy eaten. She's like, I'd rather fuck to orgasm. I'm like, well, there goes my whole skill set, man. Like, I don't know how to fuck to orgasm. I had to learn a whole different skill set and shit like that. She fucks me. I don't do any of the fucking. She gets on top. If I was on top, I lost my balance. I'd kill her. So, Muhammad comes to the mountain. You know what I'm saying? She gets her business done up top and shit. She knows what she's doing.
Not that
but
I want.
I had to give up that skill set.
Yes.
And every once in a while, she lets me pull it out and shit. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm like a gunslinger back in the day. I'm like, yes, I'm like Doc Holliday. But I don't get to do it as much as I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I got a big, thick-ass gynecology book at age 12. Learned the mysteries of the fucking vagina, the labia and stuff like that. And so I could be effective. I was a fat kid, Kev, so I was never going to get any play unless I knew what I was doing down there.
You had to be an expert.
Well,
at 13.
I'd be good enough.
Matt Meyer's question.
Oh, fuck, I forgot. I went off on a tirade about eating pussy. A bunch of people at home are like, no, you don't. Look at me, I'm a fat guy. Of course I know how to eat. Go ahead, ask Matt.
Chasing Amy, a little more than 20 years old now. If you could time travel to 96, like in Terminator, where you had to be naked, what advice would you give?
Oh, fuck.
What advice would you give yourself?
Well, I wouldn't do it because I'd have to be naked.
I think you kind of answered that question when you talked about the experience of doing Chasing Amy and what things meant then and what they mean now.
Right.
I think today's chat has been all about that.
So don't respond to that question then?
Feel free if you'd like.
I can tell him in real life. I'll see him in a couple hours. What would I tell that guy?
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, but I mean, that could have been a lie that I fed myself as well. What would I have liked to have heard? Here's what I would have told myself
I'm saying modern day you now.
Tells
and
1997.
What we've been talking about for a couple hours.
Right.
Is when you look at the story, that thing that felt like failure or this or that in the moment, to the story was that great thing you did that you're now very proud of.
I would tell myself, I think the most useful piece of information for me in 1997 would have been like, you don't wind up with this girl. Like I thought I would wind up with Joey. That's where the movie came from. Like, oh my God, we made art together and shit like that. So, and not in a shitty way. I wouldn't be like, run, bitch, or something like that. She's lovely. But I would have just told myself, that would have been useful. Like, don't get hooked here because in fucking 10 minutes, you're going to meet the woman of your dreams and have a child with her, and life is going to change in ways that you can't even imagine, and you fancy yourself creative and a writer. So go fucking put that in your pipe and smoke it. So I would, that's the only thing I'd do. But then I'd be on the lookout for that thing. And I wasn't on the lookout for my wife when she came through the door. She just came and interviewed me for USA Today. So maybe it's better that I didn't know. And in fact, I wouldn't go back and tell myself anything. I'd tell me this. One day you get to work. One day you go to a movie theater and you look up in the end credits of a Star Wars movie and your name is in those credits. And then 1997 Kevin would be like, we direct Star Wars? And then present day Kevin would have to be like, well, no, he's up. That's meant for better people than you.
At Comic-Con, J.J. Abrams overshadowed your hall with an outdoor event which resulted in you being a stormtrooper.
It did. I got a gig out of it.
Yeah,
he felt so bad. He took my audience away to do a Star Wars concert. I was like, I have no Q&A audience. But I didn't make a stink about it or anything like that. I got shredded on the internet. A lot of pictures of an empty hall and me on stage by myself and shit. And they're like, ha ha ha. But JJ felt bad, and he was just like, I said on a episode of Hollywood Babylon, which once again just goes to show you, podcasts have been the pathway to so many things in my life. I wouldn't have ever been in Star Wars were it not for fucking podcasts. But I said on Hollywood Babylon, I was like, well, you know what, Ralph, after telling the story, I was like, Sith happens, and you can't do anything about that. We all bend the knee to Star Wars. But I said, if JJ makes another one of these, I want to play a fucking fat stormtrooper. I think he owes me. And he had sent me an email like 2 days after the podcast went up, and he goes, I heard Hollywood Babylon. I just want you to know I have the power to do that. And so I fucking called him up. I was like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, dude, we got so many stormtroopers in this movie. They all got to talk. So why don't you be one of them? And I was like, dude, normally I would be all modest and say, you don't have to do that, but you do have to fucking do that. And not for, you don't owe me, but god damn it, this is the closest I'll ever get to a Star Wars movie unless I'm buying a ticket for it and shit. So he's like, yeah, come in. He brought me to Bad Robot and fucking set me up in front of the TV. And what the best part of it was, yeah, I got my voice in the movie. That was great. My name was in the blue credits. And I was like, but the best part of it was I got to see a good 45 minutes of the movie way early.
Way early.
Oh my God. So I was like, you're doing the Lord's work. So the fan came out in me first. It was pretty wonderful. But yeah, that all came from that.
I can't thank you enough, pal.
Thank you for
honestly and truly. You did not have time for this.
You didn't have time for Red State, and yet you came out and got shot in the eye. You took a shot in the face right there. I'll take a shot in the face for you.
Thank you so much. Please sit there and comfortably while I quickly wrap things up for the folks at home. Thank you to the crew and Sam and Jamie. We love. Have yourselves a wonderful couple of weeks. Jamie and Sam will be here with Ethan Embry. I'll be elsewhere. And then we'll drop a show, I think, with Comedy Film Nerds at the end of the month. And we'll see you in May with some great shows. Rob Corddry,
Dave Foley,
Dave Coulier. Rob Reiner. Yeah.
Meathead coming in?
Coming in.
Give him all my respect, man. I was a huge fan of his entire body of work. I love A Few Good Men. That was like word porn to a writer, you know. And then, of course, we owe Aaron Sorkin a lot for that as well. But I remember seeing that movie and being like, oh, my God, this is like pornography if you like language.
Yeah.
That was early Sorkin, man.
That was his first film.
His entree into the world.
Just a puppy
Can I
walking
tell you a
around.
quick Sorkin story?
Sure.
You could probably tell me a dozen, but I heard this from fucking Bill Pullman. I was interviewing people for IMDb up at Sundance this year. I do it at San Diego Comic-Con, I interview people on their yacht, and I was doing it up at Sundance. And so he was there for some movie, and I said, hey man, I never had this opportunity before, so I'm just gonna take this moment to talk to you about something, acknowledge you for one of the most brilliant performances I've ever seen in my life. I was like, naturally everyone thinks I'm going to talk about the speech in Independence Day, which is lovely, but that's not it. I said, you were in a picture called Malice years ago with Alec Baldwin and shit. And at one point, like, you fucking like take on this fucking the character in the movie that was this rapist and shit, and like fucking take him down. And then in the next scene, you kind of stumble in, like, Jesus, what happened to you? And you say one of my favorite lines anyone's ever said in a movie, not that I'm a fan of rape, but I just love this line. You go, I just beat the shit out of a deeply disturbed serial rapist. I was like, that pitch perfect delivery. I had to watch that 1,000 times. He goes, Aaron Sorkin came up with that line. I was like, yeah, Aaron Sorkin wrote it. He goes, yeah, but he came up with the line on the day and he told me to say it. And I remember going like, Aaron, don't you think this is a little on the nose? And he goes, Aaron said to me, he goes, Bill, every once in a while you have to let the audience know exactly where they are. And I was so happy I got to hear that fucking story, not only just to acknowledge him for that line, which I have like, anytime I watch that movie, I rewind it 9 times because I'm like, that is pitch perfect fucking delivery.
What a lesson also.
Yeah, came from a great.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.